10 years ago, eerie black monuments fell from the sky, bringing monsters called disaster beasts. They broke through the barriers and started massacring humanity. A young boy named Itsuki helplessly watched as a monster killed his parents right in front of him. In the present day, Itsuki is crying during a school assembly as he remembers that day. His friend asks what's wrong, but he brushes it off. Another friend points out the man leading the assembly. It's Izumi Nento, the commander-in-chief of the northern continent and the very first awakened human. Nento brought a black monument to the school. Recent research showed that ordinary people have a chance to become awakened just by touching it. Nento invites the students to try it so they can fight the disaster beasts. The students line up excitedly, but one by one, they all fail. Even the star athlete gets nothing. Then, the school bully, Oishi, steps up and touches the rock. Blue lightning sparks, and he successfully awakens. His stats pop up, showing he got a grade 2 lightning elementalist class. A normal beginner has a total stat value of 5, but Oishi's total is 12. He immediately gets arrogant and demands praise from the commander. Ignoring Oishi, Itsuki walks up and touches the monument next. He remembers his hatred for the monsters and vows never to forget that day. A massive pillar of light shoots up into the sky. Nento and his assistant are shocked, realizing Itsuki just got the rarest job, Order Breaker. Inside his mind space, Itsuki checks his system. His job is Order Breaker with a special grade gift called Nirvana. This gift increases his stats every time he acquires a skill, removes debuffs, and heals injuries. He also gets a Z-rank skill called Overmimesis, which lets him analyze enemy attacks and copy them as counter skills. However, Itsuki notices all his base stats are at 0, but the moment Overmimesis activates, his Nirvana gift kicks in, giving him a massive boost. All his stats instantly jump to 200, making his total stat value 800. He realizes that even though his level is fixed at 0, he can keep getting stronger just by copying skills. When Itsuki snaps back to reality, he is glowing. Nento's assistant notes that his stats are impossible for a rookie, and Nento agrees that Itsuki is the strongest new awakening in history. The students start cheering for Itsuki, which makes Oishi incredibly jealous. Angry that his spotlight was stolen, Oishi attacks Itsuki from behind with his new C-rank lightning skill, Silver Serpent. As the attack comes close, Itsuki's Overmimesis skill activates and starts analyzing the lightning. Because of his massive agility stats, Itsuki easily dodges the attack, moving so fast that he instantly appears right behind Oishi. Itsuki grabs the terrified bully by the shoulder and tells him he's lucky he's human, or he would have killed him 100 times over. Meanwhile, the analysis reaches 100%. Itsuki gets pulled back into his mind space as he acquires the C-rank skill Thunderbreaker. This skill lets him absorb lightning attacks to boost his own agility. Since he gained a new skill, his Nirvana gift triggers again. It gives him 10 more points to every stat, pushing his total up to 840. Itsuki returns to the real world covered in lightning that is much stronger than Oishi's. Suddenly, the sky turns dark. A black monument falls directly onto the school grounds. Nento's assistant quickly orders an evacuation, realizing the monsters are targeting Itsuki because of his massive awakening. The students panic and run, but Itsuki stays behind. His friends try to pull him away, warning him that he's just a rookie and will die if he fights. Itsuki just smiles, his eyes glowing red. He tells them to trust him and walks toward the smoke. A monster steps out of the monument. Itsuki instantly recognizes it as the exact same type of monster that killed his parents 10 years ago. The system shows the enemy is a level 8 skeleton soldier with a B-rank fire skill and a total stat value of 295. Itsuki calls himself lucky, ready to fight his first battle as an awakened and get his revenge. Itsuki decides to test his newly acquired Thunderbreaker skill. Cloaked in lightning, he charges at the skeleton soldier, declaring he won't let anyone else die today. With a massive crackling strike, he sends the level 8 monster flying backward, crashing it straight through the walls of the school building. The students and Nento's assistant are stunned that a level 0 rookie just overpowered a disaster beast. However, Nento knows the fight isn't over. He points out that the monster has high defense and a deadly skill called Bonefire that turns flesh into ash. Oishi, the bully, laughs from the sidelines, fully expecting Itsuki to burn to death. The skeleton blasts Itsuki with a torrent of blue flames. Instead of dodging, Itsuki stands his ground and takes the hit head-on. System notifications pop up as his Overmimesis skill analyzes the Bonefire. Itsuki realizes the analysis speed increases drastically when he takes a direct hit. As the flames burn his skin, the intense pain triggers a flashback of his mother dying to the exact same blue fire 10 years ago. Just as the assistant assumes Itsuki is dead, the analysis hits 100%. A massive blue lotus blooms from the fire. Itsuki acquires the level 2 skill Black Wall, which allows him to generate ice armor that blocks fire attacks. Immediately, his Nirvana gift activates. adding 20 points to all his stats and pushing his total to 920. More importantly, the system completely heals his burns and removes all debuffs. Itsuki steps out of the inferno completely unharmed. The crowd is baffled, wondering how a lightning user also possesses such a miraculous self-healing ability. The beast lunges forward with another fire attack, but Itsuki activates Black Wall. Dark ice forms over his body, acting as absolute armor that completely negates the blue flames. Moving at speeds that look like teleportation, Itsuki shapes the ice on his arm into a massive blade and slices the skeleton soldier in half, freezing and destroying it instantly. His friend rushes over to celebrate the victory. A moment later, Nento approaches. He tells his assistant to handle the cleanup and informs the principal that he is taking Itsuki with him. The students are completely shocked, knowing Nento's only other student is Taewajin, widely known as humanity's strongest awakened. Nento takes Itsuki aside and asks why his heart is so filled with hatred. Itsuki explains that he watched disaster beasts murder his parents when he was a child. Since that day, his left eye hasn't shed a single tear, but his right eye cries on its own, constantly reminding him of his grudge. Hearing this, Nento offers to sponsor him into the Salvation League, the official global army of awakened, known as saviors. Nento explains that saviors get massive paychecks and the best training resources in the world in exchange for fighting on the front lines. Itsuki doesn't care about the money. He just wants to slaughter monsters and immediately agrees. Nento warns him that he first has to pass the National Salvation League tournament, a massive exam where only the top 100 out of 10,000 participants become saviors. When Itsuki asks about the all-time point record, Nento reveals it's 115,000 points, set by his former student Taewajin 11 years ago. Without missing a beat, Itsuki declares he will surpass Jin. Nento smiles, excited that a new prodigy has finally appeared to challenge the strongest. Nento then brings Itsuki to a massive dome facility on the edge of the city. He explains that monuments are actually portals to the monster world. Instead of destroying this one, they built a facility around it to contain the beasts and use them as a combat training stage. This specific area is notoriously dangerous, earning the nickname Rookie's Graveyard. Nento pulls up a system record showing that Jin cleared this exact stage in 3 minutes and 14 seconds when he was just a rookie. Looking Itsuki in the eye, Nento issues a challenge. If Itsuki can clear the stage in under 3 minutes, he will officially make him his student. Walking into the training facility with Nento, Itsuki immediately draws attention from the crowd. He walks right up to the receptionist and asks to enter the level 10 stage alone. Seeing his level 0 badge, she thinks he's just trying to hit on her and warns him that entering the stage is practically suicide. Itsuki completely ignores her warnings and gives her a terrifying glare, forcing her to quickly approve his entry. As soon as Itsuki steps inside, a giant timer starts ticking down from 3 minutes. He finds himself in a massive forest area and is instantly ambushed by a level 4 tree monster called a Kodama. Using his Black Wall skill, Itsuki creates an ice axe and effortlessly slices the monster in half. He easily chops down a few more, wondering if this is really all a level 10 stage has to offer. Suddenly, his system alerts him to a B-rank skill called Self-Regeneration. The Kodama he just sliced in half rapidly pieces itself back together, evolving into a level 10 regenerated Kodama with a total stat value of 450. His overmimesis instantly starts analyzing the regeneration skill. Realizing the monster will just keep healing, Itsuki decides to mince it to pieces. He creates an ice blade and rapidly slices the beast. Noticing that every time it regenerates, his analysis speed increases. He intentionally uses a mix of Black Wall and Thunderbreaker to constantly damage the beast and dodge its attacks, forcing it to regenerate over and over. However, constantly using his skills drains his magic fast. Itsuki gets pushed to his limit, and right as the monster lunges for a fatal strike, his magic hits 0. But overmimesis doesn't require magic to finish. The analysis hits 100%, granting him a new skill called Lotus Burst. Immediately, his Nirvana gift triggers, giving him 20 more stat points and completely restoring his depleted magic to full. With his mana back, Itsuki activates Lotus Burst, a massive explosive lotus blooms, instantly incinerating the giant tree monster to ashes. Outside the stage, the receptionist is worried that Itsuki hasn't come out yet. Suddenly, the giant screen flashes green, announcing a new clear record. The crowd is left speechless as the board shows Itsuki cleared the stage in exactly 2 minutes and 14 seconds. He beat the strongest human's rookie record by an entire minute. Itsuki steps out of the stage covered in green monster blood but completely uninjured. He looks at Nento and asks if he can officially be his student now, and Nento proudly agrees. The blushing receptionist apologizes for doubting him earlier and hands him a special reward box for breaking the record. Nento's assistant tells Itsuki not to get cocky, pointing out that normal stages are too easy for him now. Nento decides Itsuki is ready for advanced stages. The assistant explains that while normal monsters just move on instinct, advanced stages contain intelligent disaster beasts that actually have unique jobs and stats, making them incredibly deadly. Hearing this, a terrifying aura leaks from Itsuki. With glowing eyes, he casually asks if intelligent monsters have pain receptors, clearly eager to torture them for his revenge. They decide his next destination is the advanced stages in North District 4. Meanwhile, the others awakened in the lobby are terrified of that specific district. They whisper rumors that any awakened who enters North District 4 goes missing. The area is completely controlled by Kinoshita Reiji, the arrogant son of the district governor. Reiji is seen relaxing with a glass of wine, bragging to his bodyguards that he owns all the stages in the district and doesn't have to follow the rules of commoners. Itsuki opens the reward box to find a glowing green gem. He shows it to Nento and Choha, who immediately recognizes it as an intermediate karma stone. She explains that when monsters die, they drop karma, which acts like experience points for awakened to level up. Usually, the killer absorbs it directly, but since Itsuki's level is permanently fixed at 0, he couldn't absorb the karma from his previous fight, causing it to clump together into this rare stone. Before heading off to a global commander-in-chief meeting, Nento leaves Itsuki with a few strict rules. Keep their master-student relationship a secret, hide his unique gift from others, clear at least 6 advanced stages before he returns, and most importantly, do whatever he thinks is right without hesitation. At the entrance of the North District 4 advanced stage, a group of regular students is arguing with some suited bodyguards. The stage has been completely blocked off just for Kinoshita Reiji. When the students threaten to report this abuse of power, a massive brute steps forward and violently beats them down. This is Oga Takaru, a level 12 gold elementalist and one of Reiji's top enforcers. One of the students desperately hits Takaru with a B-rank earth skill, but it doesn't even leave a scratch on his body. Just as Takeru is about to crush the injured student, Itsuki steps in and effortlessly catches the giant's fist. Takaru and his men are shocked to see a level 0 rookie blocking the attack, but Itsuki just states he's simply following his teacher's advice to do what's right without hesitation. Takaru checks Itsuki's level and arrogantly assumes he's weak. The system shows Takeru has a C-rank skill called Metallization and a special gift that boosts his defense by 50% whenever he stands perfectly still. Itsuki dashes in for a quick punch, but Takaru metallizes his arms to block it. Itsuki's base stats are actually much higher, sitting at a flat 250 across the board for a total of 1,000, but he realizes he still lacks the raw power to break through that solid metal armor. The moment Takeru uses his skill, Over-Mimesis activates. To speed up the analysis, Itsuki cloaks himself in lightning using Thunderbreaker to boost his agility. He unleashes a blindingly fast flurry of punches aimed directly at Takeru's exposed flesh. Overwhelmed by the insane speed and unable to even react, Takaru is forced to activate full-body metallization just to survive. Because he's standing still, his gift activates, pushing his defense well past 500 and making him an impenetrable metal wall. Itsuki quickly deduces that a full-body transformation must be rapidly draining Takeru's magic stats. But rather than just dodging and waiting for him to run out of mana, Itsuki decides to end things on his own terms. His analysis hits 100%, and the signature Blue Lotus blooms. Itsuki acquires a new level 1 skill, Clear Orb. This skill fires a slow-moving sphere that completely ignores all enemy defense. Right on cue, his Nirvana gift kicks in again, pushing all his stats up to 260 and healing his fatigue. Itsuki summons the Clear Orb in his hand. The attack only moves at 1 meter per second, making it incredibly easy to dodge. But since Takeru has to stand perfectly still to maintain his absolute defense, he's basically just a giant metal sandbag. Itsuki points his finger and fires the orb, ready to effortlessly shatter the bully's prized armor. Takaru laughs at the tiny ball floating toward him. He refuses to dodge, confident that a level 0's attack can't break his absolute defense. The orb touches him and instantly obliterates his entire right arm. Blood sprays everywhere as Takaru screams in agony. Itsuki casually reminds the giant that he warned him to dodge. He explains that since Takeru is human, he settled for the arm, but if he were a monster, he would have aimed for the neck. Itsuki tells the terrified bodyguards to take their boss to the hospital and get lost. The crowd cheers for Itsuki. A few students ask to form a party with him, offering a healer who can restore his magic so he can spam the orb. They warn him that the monsters inside the Flaming Rock execution ground have defense just as high as Takeru. Hearing this, Itsuki gets excited. The Clear Orb's passive increases its flight speed every time he kills an enemy with higher defense. He rejects the team-up offer and enters the level 15 advanced stage, completely solo. Inside the stage, Itsuki is immediately surrounded by level 9 stone statues. Their special gift converts all their magic into defense, giving them nearly 300 defense points. Itsuki fires a clear orb. It effortlessly pierces through a statue, killing it instantly. The system triggers the passive, increasing the orb's flight speed by 100%. He keeps firing, taking down more statues and continuously stacking the speed multiplier. After a few kills, Itsuki checks his stats. Each orb costs 50 magic, and he only has enough mana left for 2 more shots. He sees 2 statues charging at him, along with a hidden boss yet to reveal itself. Itsuki waits for the 2 statues to line up perfectly and pierces them both with a single orb. The speed multiplier hits 500%, making the orb fly 5 times faster. Suddenly, the ground erupts. The boss, a level 15 giant stone man, emerges. It has almost 500 defense and a B-rank skill called Gigantification. Itsuki activates Thunderbreaker to boost his agility and sprints around the massive beast. He tries to aim for the head but realizes the orb is simply too small to deal fatal damage to such a giant target. The boss slams the ground, launching Itsuki into the air. He quickly activates Black Wall to block the incoming debris. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, Kinoshita Reiji gets a phone call. His men inform him that Takeru was defeated and someone broke into his reserved stage. Furious that a commoner is disrespecting his family's name, Reiji gathers his men and heads to the stage to handle the intruder himself. Back in the fight, Overmimesis finishes analyzing the boss's Gigantification skill. Instead of granting a brand new skill, the analysis directly upgrades Clear Orb to level 2. The upgrade allows Itsuki to increase the orb's size by consuming extra magic. Right on cue, his Nirvana gift triggers from the skill acquisition. All his stats increase by 20, pushing his total to 1,120, and his depleted magic is completely restored to full. Eager to test his new upgrade, Itsuki pours his entire magic pool of 280 points into the skill. The tiny orb rapidly expands into a massive, building-sized sphere. He drops the giant orb directly onto the boss. The massive attack completely crushes the giant stone monster, obliterating it in a blinding pillar of light. Standing amidst the destruction with 0 magic left, Itsuki smirks and admits he might have pushed it a bit too far. With the giant boss defeated, a system notification pops up, showing the clear orb's flight speed increased by another 200%. Itsuki realizes that if he keeps stacking this passive, the orb will eventually fly as fast as a car. He also notes that his Lotus Burst's passive increases the range of all his skills by 1% per kill. If he farms enough kills, he can eventually snipe monsters from thousands of meters away. Itsuki steps out of the stage completely unharmed. The crowd is in an uproar, as the monitor shows a clear time of exactly 3 minutes and 1 second. He just broke Jin's clear record for a level 15 advanced stage completely solo, leaving the onlookers wondering if it's a system bug. Choha approaches him, accompanied by a glowing green butterfly. Itsuki asks about it, and she explains she is a Shikigami user and the butterfly is her summoner, Tamacho. She then breaks down the 4 main awakened jobs. The first is Elementalist, who controls natural elements like the bully Takeru. The second is Shikigami user. She reveals her level is actually lower than her summon because Shikigami absorb experience and level up on their own. Hearing this, Itsuki immediately deduces that the fastest way to beat a Shikigami user is to just kill the master directly, giving off a dark, menacing aura. Choha continues, explaining the third job is Order Breaker, which Itsuki has. It's the most mysterious class because every Order Breaker has completely unique Z-rank skills. Because their skills are irregular, keeping them a secret is their greatest weapon. As payback for Itsuki hiding his abilities, Choha playfully refuses to tell him what the 4th job is. Itsuki wants to run the stage again to stack his passives, but Choha tells him that specific stage has a 2-day cooldown. Looking for a new target, he asks for a stage with a massive number of monsters. Choha points him to the Locust Wasteland, warning him that it contains over 100 bug monsters. She tells him it's basically suicide to enter without area of effect skills. Since Itsuki hasn't shown her his Lotus Burst yet, she assumes he only has single target attacks. Itsuki just smiles and heads straight for the wasteland anyway, leaving the crowd baffled by his fearlessness. Meanwhile, Kinoshita Reiji and his men finally arrive at the first advanced stage, only to find it completely empty. Reiji's men are in disbelief that a level 0 cleared the area in just 30 minutes. Furious that he's being made a fool of, Reiji orders his men to track Itsuki's leftover magic traces using the Hound, so he can capture the rookie alive and torture him. In a dark alleyway somewhere else in the city, an Earth Element assassin is hiding, regretting taking a job that made him a target of the Kinoshita family. Suddenly, a massive black wolf lunges out of the shadows and rips into him. A man named Charles, known as the Hound, steps out of the darkness. His wolf Shikigami, named Death, easily tracked the assassin by his scent. Charles lets the wolf finish its meal, and the system shows the beast leveling up to 16. Charles's phone rings. He is informed that Takeru was badly injured by an intruder. Intrigued that someone actually managed to break through Takeru's absolute defense, Charles hangs up and tells his wolf that a new prey has appeared. Itsuki and Choha arrive at the Locust Wasteland, which looks like an endless wheat field. Choha explains that this stage is highly dangerous because the bugs here are incredibly aggressive, attack in massive swarms, and will completely devour anyone who lets their guard down. Itsuki just smiles, finding the massive number of enemies perfect for his plan, and walks straight into the portal. Suddenly, Choha realizes she forgot to warn him that the locusts will respawn infinitely until the stage boss is killed. She tries to run in after him, but is abruptly confronted by Charles and his giant wolf. Inside the stage, Itsuki is immediately surrounded by thousands of level 1 and 2 evil locusts. Since they are all clustered together, he casually activates Lotus Burst. The massive explosion incinerates a huge chunk of the swarm. System notifications flood his vision as the Lotus Burst passive triggers over 100 times, increasing all his skill ranges by 110% in a single attack. He keeps spamming the explosive skill, slaughtering wave after wave and pushing his range multiplier higher and higher. However, no matter how many he kills, the swarm doesn't thin out. Overmimesis suddenly detects a C-rank skill called Mother's Will. Itsuki realizes the stage has a hidden boss that is infinitely reproducing the level 1 bugs. He is down to his last 50 magic points, and the swarm is still pouring in. Just as he's about to run out of mana, the analysis hits 100%. Itsuki acquires the level 1 skill Magic Detection, which scans for enemy magic within a 100 meter radius. Thanks to his stacked Lotus Burst passive, the detection range is multiplied to over 1,100 meters. Even better, the skill's passive effect restores 10% of his magic every time it detects an enemy unit. Because he is surrounded by thousands of bugs, his magic instantly fills back up to maximum. With his mana completely restored, Itsuki uses magic detection to pinpoint the level 13 Queen Locust hiding deep underground. The queen tries to use her swarm as a meat shield, but it's completely useless. Itsuki fires a clear orb. Boosted by the massive range multiplier, the orb flies over 120 meters, effortlessly piercing through the swarm and the ground to assassinate the queen in one hit. With the boss dead, the remaining locusts fall into chaos. Itsuki casually burns the rest of them to ashes, pushing his skill range passive to an insane 1,210%. He picks up another Karma Stone and exits the stage, setting a new clear record of 17 minutes. Expecting Choha to playfully scold him for taking so long, Itsuki walks out of the portal with a smile and apologizes for worrying her, but his expression instantly turns to pure rage. Standing right outside the gate is Charles, holding a severely beaten and bleeding Choha by the throat. Realizing Itsuki survived the stage solo, Charles gives a menacing grin and confirms he's the exact target Reiji is looking for. Charles mocks Itsuki, calling him a mere level 0 rookie. Itsuki tells him to take his filthy hands off Choha, promising to only half kill him if he complies. Shocked by Itsuki's sudden burst of lightning speed, Charles panics and summons his massive black wolf Shikigami, Death, to intercept. The moment the beast appears, Overmimesis triggers and begins analyzing the B-rank Deathhound. Charles brags that his wolf's bite can crush any defense under 30. Itsuki just casually raises his arm and blocks the giant jaws with his black wall ice armor, completely shattering the beast's fangs. He then punches the wolf, killing it instantly, while reminding Charles that a Shikigami user is defenseless without their summon. However, Charles just smirks. He reveals that Death possesses a B-rank skill that drastically reduces its respawn time. The wolf instantly revives from the shadows and lunges at Itsuki's blind spot. But with his magic detection constantly active, Itsuki easily reads the attack and dodges it without breaking a sweat. Realizing he's completely outmatched in speed and power, Charles tightens his grip on Choha's throat, threatening to snap her neck if Itsuki takes another step. Itsuki pauses. He wants to finish the analysis, but decides to suppress the flashy blue lotus to keep his order breaker abilities a secret, just like Choha advised. The analysis hits 100%, and Itsuki acquires the level 2 skill Shikigami Eater. Because he forcefully suppressed the blue lotus, the system warns him that the full recovery and debuff removal failed. However, his Nirvana gift still gives him the stat boost, pushing his total stats to 1,240. Since his magic was already fully restored in the previous stage, the failed recovery doesn't bother him. The new skill allows Itsuki to steal an opponent's Shikigami simply by touching it. He places his hand on the wolf and instantly takes full ownership of the beast. With a simple command, the wolf turns around and kicks Charles away. Charles is dumbfounded, screaming at his summon for betraying him. Itsuki demands he step away from Choha. Charles questions why Itsuki is targeting him, revealing he is Charles the Hound and was sent under Kinoshita Reiji's orders to capture him for trespassing on a reserved stage. Desperate, Charles tries to command the wolf to bite off Itsuki's legs. Instead, the wolf lunges and bites Charles. Using the Thunderbreaker, Itsuki dashes in and safely snatches Choha out of his grasp. Itsuki praises the wolf and promises to return the pain Charles caused Choha 100 times over. Charles drops to his knees, begging for his life and offering to team up to lure Reiji into a trap. Itsuki pretends to think it over, calling it a good proposal. Thinking he found an opening, Charles pulls out a hidden dagger and launches a surprise attack. Itsuki effortlessly blocks the blade with an ice shield, stating he is more than capable of killing Reiji by himself. Itsuki turns to the wolf and tells it that it's mealtime, ordering it to give Charles the exact same treatment he gave Choha. Charles screams and begs as his former pet brutally devours him. With the assassin dead, Itsuki looks out into the empty distance. He casually mentions that he knows someone has been watching him ever since he left the stage and orders them to finally show themselves. A hooded guy steps out of the wheat field with his hands up, nervously telling our boy that he isn't an enemy. He introduces himself as Iberia and says he watched the whole fight. Itsuki completely ignores him and starts walking away with the unconscious Choha in his arms. Iberia desperately tries to get his attention by offering karma stones or weapons as payment for his help. Hearing the word weapons, Itsuki stops. Iberia notices Choha's injuries and pulls out a glowing green bandage to heal her. He explains it's a rare karma tool crafted from monster parts, since modern firearms are useless against disaster beasts. He then goes on a long rant about how karma tools are ranked from normal to unique, and how the crafters who make them are highly respected. Iberia proudly reveals his dad is actually the crafter king of the northern continent, having made 3 of the only 10 unique karma tools in existence. Our dude ignores the bragging and instead inspects the crossbow he looted from Charles. Iberia points out it's a rare karma tool called the Hunter's Crossbow that boosts agility by 50. He shows Itsuki how it conveniently stores itself away in the system until needed. Getting back to business, Iberia asks Itsuki to team up for the National Salvation League preliminaries tomorrow. He explains that Kinoshita Reiji is monopolizing the local stages to guarantee a top 10 spot, and has already bought off almost all the strong participants. Iberia's dad promised to give him a powerful karma tool, but only if he passes the preliminaries without relying on his family's influence to get carried. Desperate for a strong partner, he tracked down Itsuki after hearing rumors of him beating Oga. Since they both have a target on Reiji's back, our fellow agrees to the team-up. Iberia gets hella excited and immediately starts throwing out terrible duo names like Double I. Meanwhile, back at the training grounds, Itsuki's friends Rikuru and Saya are sparring to prepare for the exact same tournament. They've both leveled up to 10 and 11 as metal and water elementalists. They wonder how Itsuki is doing, entirely unaware of what he's been up to. Elsewhere, Kinoshita Reiji is annoyed that Charles hasn't reported back, but he decides to ignore it to focus on the tournament. His subordinate confirms they have successfully bribed 87 of the strongest participants in the region. Reiji grabs a briefcase full of high-grade karma stones and absorbs them all. With that, he hits level 12 as a lightning elementalist, with a total stat value over 600. Surrounded by crackling lightning, he gets ready to crush the commoners in tomorrow's preliminaries. Itsuki stands over Charles's dead body and apologizes to Nento for letting Choha get hurt. Nento offers to clean up the mess, but our boy insists on handling the trash himself. Later at the hospital, Choha is resting in bed. She's fully recovered thanks to her butterfly Shikigami and the rare karma tool bandage Iberia used on her. Iberia finally puts 2 and 2 together and realizes Nento is the big shot commander-in-chief. Choha casually points out that Iberia must be the son of the famous crafter king, Aiden. Our dude Iberia gets so nervous trying to act cool that he accidentally claims to be Aiden's father before awkwardly correcting himself. Nento thanks Iberia for saving Choha and promises to visit his dad with Itsuki after the tournament. As they leave, Nento reveals a harsh truth. Because of his childhood trauma, our fellow gets hella self-destructive when fighting monsters. The only way to calm his impulses is to give him someone to protect, which is exactly why Nento assigned Choha to be his friend. Nento also drops the bombshell that the monster attack at Itsuki's school wasn't random. It was a planned hit by human traitors working with the disaster beasts to assassinate commanders. Nento firmly believes Itsuki will become humanity's light of hope in the coming war. The scene then takes us to the North District 4 tournament venue. The participant count jumped from 3,000 to nearly 5,000 just because rumors spread that Nento was watching. Reiji isn't worried about the extra numbers though. He points out his massive army of bribed participants, who are all wearing red ribbons on their right arms to identify themselves. Itsuki's friends, Rikuru and Saya, are also in the crowd, and notice the weird ribbon trend. The host steps up and explains the simple rules. The arena has an external zone and an internal zone. The moment the match starts, everyone has to race from the outside to the inner circle. Only the first 50 people to cross the line advance to the next round. Players can team up and use any means necessary to win. Raiji immediately commands his red ribbon goons to block anyone trying to run ahead of him. Iberia tells Itsuki they should lay low and sneak past, but one of Reiji's men already spots them since they don't have ribbons. Meanwhile, the host chats with a top-tier level 18 participant named Hiten Akira. Hiten asks about the crazy rumor of a level 0 rookie beating a boss monster right after awakening. They pull up the participant list to figure out who it is, ruling out strong players like Rikuru, Seiya, and a level 16 wood elementalist. When they spot a level 0 on the roster, they just assume it's some clueless noob who's going to get completely wrecked. Down on the field, Reiji spots Itsuki and recognizes him. Realizing this is the level 0 trash who took out Oga and Charles, Reiji orders his squad to attack. 5 guys immediately surround our boy. Iberia freaks out, thinking they need to run since fighting a group of level 6S and 7S is impossible. A level 7 guy steps right up to Itsuki, laughing and calling him trash. Itsuki just stares him down and coldly tells him to move. The guy ignores the warning and threatens to crack his head open. Before the guy can even finish his sentence, our boy casually throws a brutal punch to his face, instantly knocking him out cold with blood flying everywhere. Standing over the unconscious body, Itsuki just repeats his command to move. Watching from a distance, Hiten is left completely shaken that a level 0 just one-shotted an enemy 7 levels higher than him. Seeing their level 7 buddy get knocked out, the other goons freak out. One of them, a fire elementalist, unleashes a B-rank skill, Flamethrower, to burn our boy to a crisp, but Itsuki just stands there and blocks the massive fire wave completely with his Black Wall ice armor. The system pops up, showing his Black Wall's passive activated, granting him a 10% defense boost. His defense jumps from 310 to 341. Our dude wonders if the passive works multiple times on the exact same skill. So, he taunts the fire guy, promising not to block the next attack. Furious, the guy uses his ultimate technique, Flamethrower Overheat. Itsuki takes the massive blast head-on without a single scratch. He notes that the passive doesn't stack from the exact same skill from the same target. Realizing the fight is a waste of time, he gets serious. Another guy tries to overwhelm him with a fire barrage. Itsuki blocks it, triggering the passive again, and gaining another 31 defense points. Seeing their fire attacks do absolutely nothing, 2 lightning elementalists try to make a run for it, but Itsuki ain't letting them escape. Using his insane speed, he instantly catches up and absorbs their C-rank lightning skill, Silver Serpent. Thanks to his Thunderbreaker passive, his agility increases by 5% twice, pushing his total stats to 1,333. He drops the enemies like flies. Iberia is absolutely mind-blown and proudly introduces them as the duo Double I, which our fellow still finds hella lame. Further ahead, Kinoshita Reiji notices the commotion and spots Charles's crossbow on Itsuki. Realizing the rookie is actual trouble, Reiji decides to just rush to the internal area. Using his high-level lightning, he effortlessly blasts past the other participants, including Rikuru, leaving everyone in the dust and commanding his men to save their stamina. Reiji reaches the internal area boundary, bragging about how easy it was. But suddenly, he hears his name. He turns around to see Itsuki and Iberia casually walking up behind him in the rain. Reiji is shocked that the level 0 trash actually managed to beat his level 7 goons. Itsuki calmly tells Reiji he isn't going anywhere until they settle their business. Arrogant as ever, Reiji says he's too busy, and commands his remaining army of over 80 bribed participants to jump the rookie. Iberia freaks out at the massive crowd of enemies, but our guy just tells him to keep his head down. In a flash of blue lightning, Itsuki completely bypasses the entire army of men, grabs Reiji by the face, and violently slams him backward into the glowing barrier. Pinning the arrogant rich kid down, Itsuki coldly repeats that no one is leaving until they settle this. Inside the internal area, Seiya and Rikuru secure 4th and 5th place. They realize Reiji's red ribbon goons were obstructing the participants. Looking around, they notice others arrived even faster. Uegaku took 3rd, a cat girl named Akagami Shion got 2nd, and a level 16 girl named Hanyu Kana secured 1st place. Suddenly, Iberia comes flying through the barrier, crash landing into 6th place. He yells out for Itsuki. Hearing the name, Rikuru and Seiya look over and spot Itsuki walking through the rain, holding Kinoshita Reiji by the face against the barrier. Watching from a distance, Hiten is impressed by Itsuki's insane speed. Pinned against the wall, Reiji furiously orders his entire army of around 100 men to kill Itsuki. Our boy decides passing the preliminaries is secondary to avenging Choha. One goon charges in with a C-rank fire punch. Itsuki casually catches the flaming fist and knocks the guy out in one hit. The rest of the mob rushes him at once. Itsuki blocks another fire attack with Black Wall to stack his defense passive, then decides to end the fight quickly. He activates Lotus Burst at just 30% power, creating a massive explosion that wipes out the entire army of goons in an instant. The spectators are shocked, especially the host, who wonders how a level 0 is using area of effect skills. Raiji is the only one left standing. Terrified, he brags about his rich family and fires a B-rank lightning cannon. Itsuki's overmimesis activates, and he easily dodges the blast. Panicking, Reiji screams for his level 35 bodyguard, 40, to step in and save him. But before the bodyguard can reach them, Hiton intercepts him and slams him straight into the dirt. With his lifeline gone, Reiji tries to threaten Itsuki with his family status again. Our guy just knocks him out cold and tosses his unconscious body aside. Itsuki then intentionally pauses his skill analysis at 99% so he can save the system's full recovery effect for the next stage. Saya calls out to Itsuki, and they finally reunite as Itsuki casually walks into 7th place. Iberia runs up, crying tears of joy. When Rikuru asks who he is, Iberia proudly introduces himself as Itsuki's partner. Saya jokingly calls Itsuki a traitor for teaming up with someone else. Rikuru asks for their duo name. Despite Itsuki's desperate attempt to stop him, Iberia proudly shouts, "Double I." Rikuru immediately bursts out laughing at how lame it is. Just then, the host announces the end of the first stage. He reveals the rules for the second stage, explaining that participants will have to survive against disaster beasts completely alone for 1 hour. Hearing this, Iberia freaks out, since he can't rely on Itsuki's protection anymore. Meanwhile, Hiton smiles, looking forward to seeing what the top rankers can really do. The remaining participants gather inside a gloomy indoor arena for the second stage. Rikuru and Saya ask Itsuki how he manages to be so strong despite his level being permanently fixed at 0. Our boy quickly makes up an excuse, saying his teacher forbade him from telling anyone since order breaker skills are considered state secrets. Up on a high balcony, the host, Fujiwara Soryu, stands alongside Hiton and Nento to explain the rules. In this stage, participants will fight disaster beasts of varying difficulties to earn kill points. Beginner for 100 points, normal for 500, hard for 1000, and nightmare for 5000. The points earned here will carry over directly to the main tournament. Hearing this, our fellow realizes this is the perfect opportunity to rack up enough points to surpass Jin's all-time record. An arrogant level 13 participant named Uegaku immediately starts talking trash. He claims he's going straight for the nightmare class and mocks Itsuki, loudly assuming the level 0 got carried through the first stage and will die instantly to even a beginner monster. Itsuki completely ignores the trash talk and casually asks the host if Nightmare is the highest difficulty available. The trials officially begin in separate, enclosed spaces for each participant. Itsuki's first wave is a pack of 10 level 1 Mad Dogs of Calamity. He activates his Black Wall ice armor and instantly obliterates the entire pack in exactly 1 second. Up in the monitoring room, Hiton is highly amused by Itsuki's speed, but the host brushes it off, saying anyone could kill level 1 beasts that fast. The next opponent spawns, a level 8 normal class salamander. The host confidently states that a level 0 will surely struggle against an enemy 8 levels higher. The beast unleashes a massive torrent of flames. Instead of dodging, our dude just stands completely still and takes the blinding fire attack head on. The hosts panic, thinking he's dead, but the smoke clears to reveal Itsuki entirely unscathed. He deliberately tanked the attack to trigger his Black Wall passive, gaining a free 10% boost to his defense and pushing his total stats to 1,395. After getting his free points, he effortlessly kills the beast in just 5 seconds. Without hesitation, Itsuki skips his 1-minute break and summons the hard-class enemy, a level 10 Eliki Rhino. The host notes that to beat this beast, a participant must cleverly use speed to dodge its deadly double physical lightning horn attack. But instead of dodging, our boy decides to use the Rhino as a literal crash test dummy. He lets the massive beast charge and slam its glowing horn directly into his chest. Itsuki easily tanks the hit with his absolute defense, while simultaneously absorbing the lightning to trigger his Thunderbreaker passive, giving himself a free 5% agility boost. Realizing that attacks from level 10 beasts can't even leave a scratch on him, Itsuki casually swings his ice-coated arm and slices the giant rhino in half. He clears the hard-class beast in a mere 7 seconds. Up in the monitoring room, the host and Hiton are absolutely sweating. Itsuki has cleared 3 waves in under 15 seconds total, and Hiton realizes the kid isn't even using a fraction of his full power yet. Finally, the ultimate test spawns, a Nightmare class level 15 Inferno Giant, heavily armored in a rigid exoskeleton. The host expects a brutal fight, but our boy just casually points his finger. He fires a single clear orb that instantly pieces straight through the giant's head. Itsuki one-shots the nightmare boss in exactly 3 seconds, leaving the judges completely speechless. Meanwhile, the other participants are still grinding their stages. Saya is at 80% on her beginner class beast. Ui hasn't even scratched his normal class, and Hanyukana just finished her normal class. But before they can even celebrate, the system announces someone cleared the nightmare class in 21 seconds flat. They are absolutely shook, wondering who could possibly be that fast. Back in the monitoring room, the judges are completely flabbergasted, seeing the level 15 Inferno Giant instant killed. The host decides to push our boy to his limits and cranks up the difficulty to Nightmare Phase 2, spawning 2 Inferno Giants at once for 10,000 points. Our dude isn't phased at all. He just fires another clear orb and instantly headshots the first giant. But the host smirks, noting a fatal flaw. Turns out, these massive giants have a racial trait that makes them speed types, despite their huge bodies. The second giant easily dodges the slow-moving orb. The host assumes Itsuki is out of options, since his attack is too slow to hit from a distance. But our fellow just smiles. If the orb is too slow, he just needs to close the distance himself. He activates Thunderbreaker, cloaking his body in lightning to massively boost his agility. The host panics, thinking Itsuki is going to get crushed as the giant slams its massive fist down. However, Itsuki effortlessly dodges the strike, completely vanishing from its sight. Appearing right behind its neck, our boy fires a point-blank clear orb, executing the second boss and clearing the phase in just 12 seconds. Watching this, Choha gets hella fired up and happily cheers for Itsuki. Everyone in the monitoring room gives her a weird look, making her go full tsundere as she stammers and pretends she was just worried about humanity's future. Nento calmly explains to the host that Itsuki's lightning boost makes him way too fast for the giants to ever touch him. The host assumes Itsuki will stop since he already secured first place and has enough points. But our boy ain't stopping until he shatters Jin's absolute record. He immediately jumps right into Phase 3, facing down 3 Inferno Giants at once. Even the host is shocked, noting that Hitten, a veteran powerhouse, only ever made it to Phase 3 back in his day. Itsuki wastes no time. He instantly snipes the first giant from afar, stacking his passive and pushing his orb speed to 17 meters per second. He then blitzes behind the second one with his lightning speed and point-blank blasts it to dust. The third giant tries to catch him off guard, lunging down with its massive jaws wide open to swallow him whole. Our dude doesn't even blink. He just stares right down its throat, charges up Lotus Burst to full output, and gets ready to blow the beast apart from the inside out. Itsuki unleashes Lotus Burst right inside the third giant's mouth. The massive explosion instantly blows the beast apart, clearing the phase and adding 15,000 points to his score, while pushing his skill range passive to 1,101%. However, using the huge attack completely drains his magic down to 0. But right as Phase 4 begins, 4 new Inferno Giants spawn into the arena. His magic detection passive immediately kicks in. Since the skill restores 10% of his mana per enemy detected, spotting the 4 new giants instantly recovers 40% of his magic pool. Up in the monitoring room, the host notes that besides Jin, humanity's strongest, no one has ever managed to clear Phase 4. Down below, Itsuki fires a clear orb at one of the giants. As he does, another giant swings its massive iron chains at him. Caught mid-air in a bad posture, our boy can't dodge or block properly and takes a brutal hit, sending him crashing to the ground covered in blood. Seeing this, Hiten gets ready to jump in and save him, assuming the rookie has finally hit his limit. But Nento stops him, telling Hiten to look at Itsuki's eyes. They aren't the eyes of someone who has given up. Our dude was waiting for exactly this kind of situation. He commands the system to resume the over-mimesis analysis on Reiji's B-rank lightning cannon that he deliberately paused at 99% before the stage started. The analysis instantly hits 100%, upgrading his Thunderbreaker to level 2. The signature Blue Lotus blooms, and his Nirvana gift triggers. All his base stats increase by 20, pushing his total stat value to 1,320. More importantly, the gift completely heals all his injuries and removes his fatigue in a split second. The host is absolutely flabbergasted, wondering how a rookie has better instant healing capabilities than a dedicated support class. Fully recovered, our guy announces that his warm-up is over. He goes completely all out, using his upgraded speed to easily weave through the massive iron chains. He rapidly snipes the giants with clear orbs, stacking his passive until the orb's flight speed hits a ridiculous 2,700%. He slaughters the 4 giants and clears Phase 4 in just 31 seconds. Without breaking a sweat, he jumps right into Phase 5 and wipes it out in 57 seconds. Then he clears Phase 6 in a minute and a half. The system notifications just keep rolling in as he racks up tens of thousands of points. The scene cuts to the arena, which now looks like literal hell. A massive mountain of mangled inferno giant corpses fills the room. Itsuki sits at the very top of the pile, exhausted, panting, and wrapped in broken chains. He looks around and asks why the next wave of giants isn't spawning. Up in the monitoring room, the judges are completely terrified, wondering if the monsters are the real beasts or if Itsuki is. Sweating profusely, the host presses a red button to end the trial. He grabs the microphone and tells our boy that it's over, revealing that Itsuki literally killed every single inferno giant they had prepared for the entire facility. Standing on top of the mountain of dead giants, our boy checks his system. He killed 11 level 15 inferno giants in total. His clear orb's flight speed is now boosted by a whopping 3,800%, making it fly at 38 meters per second, which is way faster than a car. Just then, a massive blue crystal drops. Since Itsuki's level is fixed at 0 and he can't absorb experience points, all the EXP from the monsters clumps together into a giant karma stone worth at least 10,000 EXP. The host and Heighten realize that if anyone teams up with him, they'd get to hog all the dropped EXP for themselves. Itsuki grabs the stone and exits the stage, securing first place with a total time of 3 minutes and 55 seconds. The host is so impressed he begs to find Itsuki a top-tier mentor. Our dude casually rejects him, saying he already has a teacher. The host keeps pushing until Heighten steps in and drops the bombshell that Itsuki is actually Izumi Nento's disciple, leaving the host totally speechless. Itsuki regroups with Nento and a blushing Choha. Meanwhile, his friends Rikuru and Saya both max out at the hard class difficulty, earning 1,600 points each. The arrogant Uegaku manages to kill one inferno giant using a rare karma tool, and the cat girl Shion transforms her Shikigami into a massive beast to secure her points. Seeing the Shikigami's power, our fellow decides to feed all his extra EXP to the black wolf he stole from Charles. Iberia finally finishes his run, wearing epic red dragon armor crafted by his dad. The armor gives him massive stat boosts, but has a crazy penalty if worn for more than 15 minutes. He pushed himself to the limit just so he wouldn't drag his new duo partner down. The host announces the final top 10 rankings. Itsuki absolutely dominates first place with an insane 106,600 points. The second place, Hanyu Kana, only has 16,600 points. The crowd is completely mind-blown, noting that even humanity's strongest, Jin, only scored around 60,000 points back in his day. The arrogant Uegaku is left mauling in third place, while Saya realizes just how massive the gap between her and Itsuki has become. With this, the preliminaries officially conclude. The scene then shifts to the South Continent, where their commander-in-chief, an old prophet named Bulgar, is meditating. He suddenly snaps awake from a vision in sheer panic. He frantically warns his subordinates that the North Continent is in extreme danger. A massive wave of disaster beasts is about to strike, and some of the incoming monsters have levels exceeding 100. Checking his system, Itsuki notices his total stats have finally broken past the 1,500 mark. For a normal awakened, that's equivalent to hitting level 30. Our boy realizes his agility, defense, and magic can scale infinitely thanks to his passive skills. The only thing he lacks is a way to infinitely farm attack power, but he figures his overmimesis will eventually hook him up with a solid attack skill. His thoughts are cut short when Rikuru calls him for dinner. Itsuki, Rikuru, and Saya are hanging out, enjoying a massive feast cooked by Rikuru. They talk about Iberia, who is still knocked out from exhaustion after Choa healed him. Rikuru is still mind-blown that a level 7 like Iberia managed to clear the nightmare class while he and Saya couldn't. Suddenly, Iberia pops up right behind Rikuru like a ghost, begging for food and scaring the crap out of him. He starts scarfing down the meal and jokes that Rikuru should quit fighting and become a full-time chef because the food is just that good. The mood shifts when Nento asks the group a serious question. What do they fear the most? Rikuru says he's terrified of aging and losing his sense of taste for gourmet food. Saya admits she's deeply traumatized by sickness after growing up surrounded by suffering in a hospital. Nento calmly reassures them that awakened live twice as long as normal humans and almost never catch diseases. Iberia chimes in, saying his biggest fear is falling behind and not being able to fight alongside Itsuki. When they ask our dude what he fears, he gets deep. He recalls the absolute despair, anger, and loneliness he felt after his parents were murdered. But then Rikuru and Saya showed up, offered him a simple meal, and pulled him out of that dark place. Meeting Nento, Choha, and Iberia made him feel like he finally had a family again. Itsuki admits his biggest fear is losing this peaceful life and being left all alone. Nento listens closely and reminds him that a death without regrets is the ultimate goal of all saviors. The next morning, Iberia heads out, promising to see Itsuki at the main tournament. However, the peaceful vibe instantly shatters when Choha comes running in an absolute panic. She drops a top-secret bombshell from the South Continent's prophet. A massive disaster beast invasion is going to hit the North Continent within 3 days, and some of the monsters are over level 100. Nento immediately connects the dots. Since recent monster attacks have been specifically targeting human commanders across the globe, he realizes he is the main target. Choha and Itsuki beg him to evacuate or let them fight by his side, but the stubborn old man completely refuses. Instead, he orders Itsuki to go protect Iberia's dad, the Crafter King Aiden. Our boy instantly realizes Nento is just trying to keep him safe and far away from the actual battlefield. Nento then orders Choha to use the lower-level Awakened to evacuate the civilians, and to rally all Awakened above level 50 for an all-out war. He plans to summon Heighten and face the apocalyptic monster wave head-on in an empty district, where there won't be any civilian casualties. Back at the compound, Choha tells Nento she finished the evacuation arrangements and Hiten is on his way. She asks why Nento sent Itsuki away when Aiden already has skilled guards protecting him. Nento explains that the incoming level 100 disaster beasts are highly intelligent. If Itsuki fights them on the front lines, his unique order breaker skills will be exposed, making him a prime target for elimination. Nento also knows Itsuki currently lacks raw attack power. He sent him to the Crafter King, hoping Aiden will give Itsuki a specific artifact that boosts attack, which would turn him into the perfect awakener. Fast forward to 8 p.m., the exact time of the prophecy. Countless black monuments start raining down across the northern continent. Itsuki and Iberia are running toward Iberia's house, which is still 100 kilometers away. Suddenly, a monument crashes right into the middle of the city area. Knowing civilians are still evacuating, they immediately change their plans and rush in to help. At the crash site, a group of level 15 and 16 Awakeners are struggling against a massive level 21 Flame Golem. The team's tank tries to block an attack using a C-rank rock shield, but the golem instantly vaporizes him with a huge fire beam. The rest of the team panics. A water elementalist tries to attack from behind, but completely misses. Just as the golem is about to burn the remaining Awakeners to ashes, Itsuki jumps in and effortlessly blocks the massive flame wave with his black wall ice armor. Itsuki tells Iberia to focus on evacuating the citizens while he handles the boss solo. The rescued Awakeners are shocked by his ice armor and ask if he's a savior. Itsuki just casually replies that he isn't one yet, but he plans to surpass Teiwajin someday. Facing the level 21 golem, Itsuki remembers Nento's advice. Nento warned him that his clear orb is too slow and takes time to chant, making it risky to use in public. He told Itsuki to keep the black sphere hidden as a trump card. Since he can't use his defense-ignoring orb here, Itsuki decides to just beat the golem down with pure brute force. He activates his Thunderbreaker skill, completely cloaking himself in blue lightning. With his agility boosted to insane levels, Itsuki blitzes the flame golem. He moves so fast the Awakeners can't even track him with their eyes. Itsuki slams a lightning-coated punch straight into the golem's face, completely overpowering the massive beast and launching it into the pavement. The Awakeners are left completely stunned. While some assume the monster must have been weak, a level 15 Awakener realizes the truth. He notes that Itsuki's speed and physical strength are easily on par with a level 30 Awakener. Having defeated the beast, Itsuki and Iberia immediately leave the scene and continue their run toward Aiden's house. As they move, Itsuki checks his system. With his passive boosts, his agility is sitting at 760 and his defense is at 495. Despite these high stats, he is frustrated that he couldn't instant kill a level 21 beast without relying on his clear orb. He realizes that to survive the coming war, he desperately needs to find a way to increase his base attack power. Iberia finally catches up, panting heavily. He points out the obvious, telling our boy that speed means absolutely nothing if he doesn't have the power to back it up. But he has a solution, offering to hook Itsuki up with a top-tier attack artifact from his dad's warehouse. Tired of moving at a snail's pace, Itsuki just grabs Iberia, activates Thunderbreaker, and sprints the rest of the way at blinding speed, leaving Iberia screaming for his life. They eventually arrive at a rundown wooden cabin deep in the woods. Iberia warns Itsuki that his dad rigged the entire perimeter with traps. Using his magic detection, Itsuki senses the hidden magic. Iberia confidently tries to take the lead, but immediately steps right on a trigger plate. The ground shakes as a massive epic-grade iron golem activates to defend the property. Itsuki checks its stats and is surprised to see it has 500 attack and 500 defense, meaning this machine actually hits harder than he does. The golem swings a massive fist at Iberia. Itsuki quickly dashes in, grabs his partner, and dodges the blow. He realizes he can't just blast it with a clear orb, since it's a valuable artifact meant to protect Iberia's dad. Iberia yells out that the golem's power source is the green karmic stone right on its chest. Knowing the weak point, Itsuki activates Thunderbreaker. The golem might have high attack power, but it's way too slow to keep up with our dude's lightning speed. Itsuki effortlessly dodges the clunky giant's attacks, weaves past its arms, and casually snatches the glowing green stone right out of its chest socket, shutting the machine down instantly. Just then, a guard named Josuke rushes out with a greatsword, thinking they are bandits. He's shocked that Itsuki managed to disarm the golem without triggering any magic. Iberia stops the guard and proudly introduces Itsuki as his duo partner, using that lame double I nickname again. Suddenly, the Crafter King Aiden storms out of the cabin looking absolutely furious. He walks right past Itsuki and slaps Iberia hard across the face. Aiden angrily scolds his son for stealing the epic red dragon armor, warning him that the gear causes irreversible body damage if worn without permission for too long. Throwing a tantrum, Iberia yells that he'll never use his dad's crappy artifacts again and storms off into the house. With his son gone, Aiden turns his attention to Itsuki. He already knows Itsuki is Nento's new disciple, sent to protect him from the prophesied calamity. Aiden sizes our boy up, wondering why the highly demanding commander would choose such a plain-looking kid as his student. But as Aiden takes a closer look at the system UI, his eyes widen in absolute shock when he realizes Itsuki's level is permanently fixed at 0. Aiden stares at the system UI in absolute shock, realizing our boy's level is permanently fixed at 0. He immediately figures out exactly why Nento sent Itsuki to him. Aiden pulls out a glowing cracked yellow stone and explains that Nento demanded this specific artifact as a reward for Itsuki protecting him. Itsuki is surprised, having no idea his teacher negotiated a reward behind his back. Aiden reveals the item is a broken critical crystal. Originally, it was a unique grade masterpiece meant to push an Awaken's attack power to the absolute limit by doubling their damage on a critical hit, but it cracked during forging, changing its effects entirely. Now, a critical hit multiplies attack power by a massive 10 times. However, there's a huge catch. The base critical rate is 0%. The only way to increase it is by killing enemies with a higher base attack stat than the user, which grants a 1% increase per kill. The fatal flaw that makes it garbage for normal Awakeners is that the critical rate completely resets back to 0 every single time the user levels up. Since our dude never levels up, this broken artifact is literally a god-tier item custom made for him. Once he farms enough kills, he'll have a permanent 10x attack multiplier. Itsuki gladly equips the crystal, eager to start farming his crit rate. Before they can celebrate, a massive green barrier suddenly engulfs the entire forest, and a stone monument crashes down nearby. Aiden is baffled, as his location is a highly classified state secret known only to the continent commanders. 8. Level 14. One-horned demons immediately rush out of the woods and charge at them. Itsuki steps up and activates his black wall ice armor. He easily blocks their strikes and slices the beast to pieces with his ice blades. He notes that he could wipe them all out instantly with a Lotus Burst, but he has to hold back his explosive AoE skills so he doesn't catch Iberia and Aiden in the crossfire. Just as he finishes off the small fries, an even larger surge of mana erupts from the trees. A massive level 24 two-horned guardian beast steps out of the shadows, ready to fight. The scene then cuts away to the dark, fiery world of the disaster beasts. A shadowy overlord sits on a throne, confirming that the first wave of lower-class slaves has successfully teleported to the human realm. He speaks to a creepy, multi-eyed demon king named ManhwaCapped. The boss mentions a mysterious Eve he left behind in the human world during his last descent, which has finally located a highly important target. The Overlord orders his forces to capture this target alive. He decides to send a demon general for the capture mission, fearing that sending a full-powered demon king might accidentally destroy the Eve. As for the main invasion force, the boss hands full command over to another demon king named Enshokuma, a massive, muscular ape monster. The Overlord notes that the giant ape hasn't eaten a living human in a long time and is absolutely starving for flesh. Iberia screams as a level 24 double-horned guardian beast crashes into the room. Itsuki effortlessly blocks the attack and notices its base attack power is higher than his own. Realizing this is the perfect chance to test his new artifact, he fires a clear orb and instantly kills the beast. The system chimes in, showing his critical rate increasing by 1%. The broken crystal actually works. Leaving the guard, Josuke, to handle the rest of the monsters inside, Itsuki rushes outdoors. Iberia is getting cornered by another beast and cries for help, but his dad Aiden steps up and violently slams the monster with his heavy hammer, proving the old Crafter King isn't completely defenseless. Itsuki arrives right after, activating his black wall to impale and finish off the beast. With the immediate area clear, Itsuki uses his magic detection and confirms Josuke wiped out the remaining intruders. However, they know the beasts will keep spawning infinitely until the green barrier is destroyed. Itsuki decides to head straight for the barrier's core to slaughter everything in his path. Iberia tries to tag along, bringing up their double I team name again, but Aiden harshly pulls him back. He bluntly tells his son to stop playing around, calling Iberia an absolute dead weight who would only get Itsuki killed. Aiden points out that Itsuki operates on a completely different level, noting that the rookie's eyes are completely devoid of fear and are instead drowning in pure hatred and a thirst for battle. As Itsuki sprints toward the barrier, his magic detection spots a squad of 5-horned demons. The detection passive instantly refills his mana back to 100%. He unleashes a Lotus Burst, wiping out the entire squad in a massive, fiery explosion. The blast is so huge that Aiden and Jusuke can see it from the cabin, leaving them completely speechless that a level 0 possesses that kind of firepower. Since one of the beasts had a higher attack stat than him, Itsuki's critical rate bumps up to 2%. Our boy finally reaches the edge of the massive green barrier. He tries to scan the inside, but the barrier completely blocks his magic detection. Recalling Nento's lesson on barrier colors, he remembers the threat levels. Gray is 1 to 25, green is 26 to 50, blue is 51 to 75, purple is 76 to 100, and red is anything above 101. Knowing the green barrier means the monsters inside are all level 26 to 50, Itsuki realizes this is an absolute goldmine for experience points and farming his critical rate. He summons his stolen Shikigami, the Death Hound. He promises to feed the giant wolf all the dropped experience later to level it up, but gives it a strict order not to lay a single finger on any of the monsters. Staring into the barrier, our dude declares that every single disaster beast inside is his personal prey. Meanwhile, at Nento's compound, it's 11:30 p.m. A squad of Awakeners arrives to protect Choha, led by a cocky level 63 first-class savior named Kei Chirajima. Hiten is nowhere to be found, likely delayed by the massive wave of falling monuments. Choha is extremely worried since only special-class saviors can handle the prophesied beasts. Kei arrogantly claims he's basically on that level and tells her not to worry, but his confidence completely shatters when a massive monument suddenly crashes down right in front of them. Back inside the green barrier, Itsuki steps through, and his magic detection immediately finds 5 targets, refilling his mana again. He tells the Hound to wait and activates Thunderbreaker. Cloaked in lightning, he blitzes the beasts, slicing them up with his black wall ice and blasting them with clear orbs. His critical rate hits 3%. Suddenly, a hidden enemy launches a surprise spike attack from behind a monument. Itsuki barely dodges. Outside the barrier, Jusuke explains to a depressed Iberia that green barriers are entirely different from normal ones. The real threat isn't just the higher levels. It's the fact that green barriers contain intelligent disaster beasts that can think and strategize exactly like humans. Inside the barrier, the hidden monster reveals itself as a level 34 square general. It actually speaks the human language, mocking Itsuki for being a level 0 and assuming our boy is shaking in fear. But Itsuki isn't scared at all. He gives a terrifying, fiery grin, his eyes glowing red with pure malice. He tells the general he's just excited because he's finally found a monster that can talk, giving him the chance to ask one very specific question before he tortures it. Do you feel pain? The monster scoffs at the question, boasting that inflicting pain is its exclusive privilege. It lashes out with massive, glowing whips. Our boy easily outspeeds the attacks, but quickly realizes a glaring issue. Even with his speed, his base attack power is still way too low to decapitate or seriously damage the heavily armored beast. The general mocks Itsuki, calling him a mere insect as it ramps up its assault. Itsuki tries to analyze the attack, but overmimesis doesn't trigger because the whips are actually just the monster's antennae, a physical body part, rather than a magic skill. With his mana running dangerously low, our fellow decides to gamble everything on pure offense. He remembers his broken critical crystal has a 3% chance to land a critical hit, which will multiply his damage by 10. He recklessly charges in, throwing a barrage of weak punches just to roll the dice. The beast laughs at his pathetic attempts, confident in its high defense. But suddenly, the system chimes in, confirming his next hit is a guaranteed critical. Itsuki slams his fist right into the monster's chest. The 10 times damage multiplier creates a massive shockwave that blows the beast away, leaving it coughing up blood and completely terrified of his sudden strength. A rush of pure ecstasy hits our boy, numbing all his injuries. He walks up to the trembling general and casually asks if it felt any pain from that. The beast panics, screaming that Itsuki must be cheating with fake stats and calling him a demon. Itsuki just smiles, noting that an intelligent monster's scream of pain is music to his ears, right before he ruthlessly crushes its head. With the boss dead, his critical rate bumps up to 4%, the adrenaline fades, and his injuries start stinging again. The green barrier turns transparent, signaling that all the monsters inside are dead. Itsuki walks up to the central stone monument and casually shatters it with a single punch, completely clearing the area. Before heading back to Iberia, he calls out his Shikigami, Death. The black wolf steps out of the shadows, looking noticeably more massive than before. Itsuki checks the system and sees the hound soaked up enough dropped experience to jump 3 whole levels, reaching level 19 and gaining 150 free stat points. Our dude realizes that the Shikigami's physical size directly scales with its level. Seeing the massive growth from just 3 levels, he grins, eagerly anticipating just how gigantic his new pet is going to get after farming a few dozen more. Meanwhile, at Nento's compound, it's 11:30 p.m. A squad of Awakeners arrives to protect Choha, led by a cocky level 63 first-class savior named K. Hitan is nowhere to be found, likely delayed by the massive wave of falling monuments. Choha is extremely worried, since only special-class saviors can handle the prophesied beasts. K arrogantly claims he's basically on that level and tells her not to worry, but his confidence completely shatters when a massive monument suddenly crashes down right in front of them. A purple barrier forms, and a level 81 Minotaur warrior steps out, locking its eyes straight on Nento. K realizes he is completely outmatched and tells everyone to run. Just as the massive beast swings its weapon to crush them, Hitan finally arrives. The special class savior effortlessly catches the giant's attack with just one hand. Without breaking a sweat, Hitan punches the Minotaur, completely obliterating the level 81 monster in a single blow. K is left trembling at the insane power gap. Choha thinks the crisis is over, but Nento warns them that the real nightmare is just beginning. The purple barrier suddenly turns blood red, signaling the arrival of monsters over level 101. Inside this red barrier, a massive ape demon king named Sarugami roars. However, 3 other high-level demons are hiding in the shadows nearby. A level 87 demon general explains that they were specifically sent to a different location than Sarugami so they wouldn't stand out. Sarugami's red barrier acts as a loud decoy to attract humanity's strongest fighters. Their real mission is to stealthily capture a specific target using a tracking device called the Evil Eye, which was implanted in the human world by their overlord. The scene then cuts to our boy Itsuki sleeping in his bed. Suddenly, his right eye, the one that constantly cries on its own, snaps open and glows bright red. The demons reveal that the Evil Eye allows them to see exactly where their target is, confirming that Itsuki himself is the very person the monster army is hunting. Itsuki is fast asleep when he has a vivid dream about his mother. He excitedly tells her he finally found a disaster beast that feels pain and crushed its skull to avenge her. But instead of being happy, his mom tells him to stop. She warns him that using his power purely for revenge is wrong, and he needs to use it to protect the people he loves instead. Before he can argue, she completely fades away into the light. Suddenly, a demonic voice mocks him for crying over the dead. Itsuki instantly recognizes the presence as Linga, the devil of ruin, the exact monster who murdered his family. He wakes up furiously screaming and vows to kill Linga no matter what it takes. Our boy jolts awake in a cold sweat. His eyes are hurting, but he quickly notices that all his severe combat injuries are completely healed. He realizes Iberia must have used the rare Kodama bandages on him while he was out. His giant Shikigami wolf, Death, is sitting quietly right next to the bed watching him. Iberia walks into the room, super relieved to see his partner awake. Itsuki asks how long he's been out, and Iberia tells him it's been about 3 hours, making it around 3 a.m. on the second day of the prophecy. Itsuki quickly asks if Aiden and Jusuke are safe outside, and Iberia confirms that not a single monster has shown up since the green barrier fell. Despite the good news, Itsuki feels incredibly uneasy. The dream felt way too real, and he suspects the disaster beasts are definitely plotting something big in the background. He gets out of bed and decides to go check the perimeter with Jusuke. Outside, Itsuki asks Jusuke if any backup saviors have arrived yet. Jusuke shakes his head. Our dude finds this highly suspicious since Nento promised to immediately dispatch nearby saviors to secure the Crafter King's location. The bad feeling in his gut gets worse as he senses something truly malevolent drawing closer to the cabin. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a small squad of 3 apprentice saviors is rushing toward Aiden's house. They complain about the remote location, but are eager to finish the escort mission so they can finally get promoted. Suddenly, the squad leader senses a strange vibe from the front and orders everyone to stop. Massive figures emerge from the dark shadows blocking their path. The apprentices draw their weapons, preparing to fight standard disaster beasts. But instead, the level 37 Red Flame Demon King and the towering level 49 White Oni step into the light. The Flame Demon King casually looks down at the terrified saviors and asks if they happen to be heading to the exact same destination. The 3 apprentice saviors are getting completely slaughtered. One of them hits the Red Flame Demon King with a full power fire skill, but the demon just tanks it without a scratch and mocks how fragile humans are. Nearby, the massive white Oni simply crushes another apprentice flat into the ground. Before the flame demon can kill the last female apprentice, the level 87 Frostbite Wraith King steps in. He decides to test a new ability and corrupts the girl, putting her through a process called demonization. This turns her into a completely loyal servant to their overlord, Linga. The Wraith King orders her to hide her identity, go back to the human settlements, and act like the sole survivor of a monster attack, so she can serve as a sleeper agent. Back at the cabin, Iberia tells Itsuki not to worry. He points out that they reactivated his dad's epic-grade iron golem, so they can easily handle any common beast that shows up. But right as he says that, the massive metal golem is instantly blown to pieces before it can even react. The smoke clears, and the 3 high-level demons step out of the trees right in front of them. The system immediately pulls up their stats, revealing the level 37 Red Flame Demon King, the level 54 White Oni, and the level 87 Frostbite Wraith King. Itsuki sizes up the 3 high-level demons, noting the Frostbite Wraith King has an absolutely massive magical aura. The Wraith King tells the others he will capture the target himself and warns them not to damage the demon eye. Hearing this, our boy mistakenly assumes they are targeting Aiden. He immediately steps up and dashes forward, declaring he won't let them pass. The flame demon is caught off guard by Itsuki's insane speed. Meanwhile, the giant white Oni charges straight at Jusuke. Before Itsuki can step in to help, the flame demon fires an A-rank skill called Red Flame Bullet right at him. Itsuki tells Iberia to run and blocks the attack with his Black Wall ice armor. The moment the fire hits, Overmimesis triggers and starts analyzing the A-rank skill. The flame demon laughs, thinking his fire easily melted the weak ice. But as the smoke clears, Itsuki is completely unharmed. Shocked, the demon checks Itsuki's stats. Seeing the fixed level 0, he immediately realizes that Itsuki is actually the target carrying the demon eye. Itsuki summons his death hound Shikigami. The flame demon assumes it's a 2-on-1 fight, but Itsuki just commands the giant wolf to run past the demon to go protect Aiden and the others. Now, stuck in a 1-on-1 against the level 37 boss, Itsuki tries to act weak and exhausted to buy time for his analysis to finish. However, our dude just can't bring himself to act like a coward against a monster. He drops the act and gives the demon a crazy, arrogant grin instead. Pissed off, the flame demon powers up to turn him to ash. Itsuki figures the demon relies on long-range attacks and instantly blitzes into close quarters to land a hit. But the intelligent beast anticipated the rush. The demon deploys a hidden flame shield to cover his close-range weakness. Itsuki punches the shield, causing a massive explosion that blows him backward. Our boy hits the ground hard and takes actual damage. He admits he messed up by underestimating an intelligent disaster beast. Bleeding but still smiling, Itsuki struggles back to his feet. He notes that because the fire skill is A-rank, the overmimesis analysis is taking way longer than usual, as the progress bar slowly ticks past 80%. The 3 demons stare down at the cabin. The level 87 Frostbite Wraith King decides to go capture the target himself and leaves the other 2 to handle the guards, strictly warning them not to destroy the demon eye. Our boy Itsuki immediately steps up to block the level 37 Red Flame Demon King. The demon fires an A-rank skill, Red Flame Bullet. Itsuki blocks it with his Black Wall ice armor, but the intense heat still burns him. The moment the flames hit, Overmimesis triggers and begins the slow process of analyzing the A-rank skill. Checking Itsuki's stats, the flame demon sees the fixed level 0. The demon arrogantly assumes there's no way this weak trash is the demon eye bearer they are looking for, meaning he can just burn our dude to death without holding back. Seeing things escalate, Itsuki summons his massive death hound and orders it to run straight to the cabin to protect Aiden. Stuck fighting the boss alone, Itsuki decides to act weak and dodge to buy time for the analysis to finish. He tries to close the distance to land a hit, but the intelligent beast expertly counters with a hidden flame shield. The resulting explosion blows Itsuki backward, leaving him heavily injured and bleeding on the ground as the analysis slowly ticks past 80%. Meanwhile, inside the workshop, the Wraith King confronts Aiden. The Crafter King refuses to be ordered around and swings his heavy hammer, but the level 87 demon effortlessly encases him in solid ice with a single spell. Just then, Itsuki's Death Hound bursts into the room to help, but the Wraith King completely outclasses it, freezing the giant Shikigami solid in an instant. Watching from the shadows, Iberia is absolutely terrified. Realizing he can't rely on anyone else to save his dad, he sneaks off to grab the epic-grade dragon gear. The Wraith King picks up the frozen Aiden and walks out, stating he'll let the other 2 demons handle the cleanup. Back outside, Itsuki is struggling. He uses Black Wall to cover his badly burned leg with ice just so he can stand. He activates Thunderbreaker to furiously dodge a rapid-fire barrage of flame bullets. Just as the demon fires a deadly piercing bullet to finish him off, the analysis finally hits 100%. Itsuki acquires Black Wall level 3. His Nirvana gift immediately kicks in, granting him 50 free stat points across the board and pushing his total stats to 1,520. More importantly, the system completely heals his severe burns and removes all fatigue in a blinding flash of light. Seeing his ultimate attacks do absolutely nothing to the fully healed rookie, the Flame Demon is stunned. Itsuki casually brushes off the flames. He admits he was planning to just bypass the demon to go save Aiden, but taking all those fire attacks pissed him off because they reminded him of Linga, the monster that killed his parents. With his eyes glowing blood red, our boy declares he's going to ruthlessly crush the Flame Demon right now. Itsuki ruthlessly drags the Flame Demon King across the ground. The level 37 boss completely panics. He desperately tries to crawl away, screaming for the White Oni and the Wraith King to come save him. Itsuki just stands over the pathetic monster, leaking a terrifying, dark aura that takes the shape of a massive demonic dragon. The system chimes in, confirming his next attack has a 100% chance to be a critical hit. Looking up at the level 0 rookie, the Flame Demon realizes he isn't fighting a human, he's fighting a true demon. The Flame Demon King realizes he is completely outmatched by Itsuki's speed and defense. Itsuki toys with the boss, waiting for his broken critical crystal to guarantee a hit. When the system confirms a 100% critical rate, our boy punches his fist right through the demon's chest. The 10x damage multiplier completely obliterates the level 37 boss. As the demon dies, it calls Itsuki a true monster. Itsuki just smiles, feeling a rush of pure ecstasy from hearing the intelligent beast scream in pain. With the boss dead, his critical rate goes up to 4%. He shatters the green barrier's central monument and picks up the massive karma orb left behind. He notices his Shikigami wolf broke out of the ice and leveled up to 20. Elsewhere in the woods, Jusuke finally manages to slice the giant White Oni in half with his greatsword, ending his fight. Back at the cabin, the Wraith King tells the frozen Aiden exactly why that armor is so dangerous. The dragon gear is crafted from the Demon Dragon tribe, a race with such a strong life force that their scales retain a will of their own, even after death. Because Iberia wore the armor past its limit, his consciousness got completely swallowed by the gear. The ice violently shatters, and Iberia fully transforms into a rampaging, true dragon.
The first day of the prophecy while Itsuki is heading out, Iberia looks worried and tells Itsuki to stay safe. Josuke watches them and asks Iberia if he really looks up to Tenma that much. Iberia confirms that he wants to become someone just like Itsuki. Josuke is confused and asks him why. He points out that Iberia has already met many amazing people like his father Aiden, the strongest warrior Teowajin, and the commander Izumi Nento. Josuke mentions that even he has more fame and battle experience than Tenma. He asks why Iberia chose Tenma specifically as his role model. Iberia is stunned by the question and realizes he has never actually thought about the reason behind his admiration. 10 years ago, a very young Iberia is shown cheering while holding a wooden sword. His mother smiles at him and asks if he likes his birthday present. Iberia is full of energy and swings the sword around happily. He tells his mother that he has already decided on a name for his new weapon. He proudly declares that he is naming it the Justice Unbeatable Hero Sword. Young Iberia continues to celebrate his birthday gift. He yells that he is awakened and tells the Disaster Beast to prepare. He runs into the courtyard to show everyone his new sword. His parents watch him from the balcony. Aiden asks if Iberia actually has friends to play with. Iberia stands in a circle with other children. He looks very proud. However, the other boys look mean. One boy reaches out his hand toward the sword. He says he is jealous of the present. He asks to see the sword for a little while. Iberia becomes very nervous. The boy points out that Iberia's father is a famous crafter. He claims the father can make as many swords as he wants. The boy promises to give the sword back soon. Iberia feels trapped by the shadows of the other children. He thinks to himself that the sword belongs to him. He knows he should refuse, but he cannot find the words. The lead boy gets very close to Iberia's face. He asks if Iberia is really going to refuse to lend it. Iberia begins to tremble with fear. He gives a forced smile and hands the sword over. The group of boys takes the sword and runs away laughing. They mock Iberia by repeating his words. They yell that they are awakened and tell the Disaster Beast to prepare. Iberia is left standing alone in the large courtyard. He begins to cry and bites his lip. He whispers to himself that they need to give it back. His mother watches the entire event from the balcony. Young Iberia returns home to his parents. His mother welcomes him back and asks if he had fun playing. Iberia hides his sadness and gives a forced smile. He lies to her and says that it was very fun. His mother looks at his hands and notices something is wrong. She asks him where his wooden sword is. Aiden is working nearby and looks very stern. He says that the other boys took the sword again. The mother is shocked and says she needs to go get it back for him. Aiden stops her and looks at Iberia with anger. He says that even if she gets it back, the boys will just take it again. He tells Iberia that he cannot even protect things that are precious to him. Aiden yells that Iberia does not have the courage to call for help. He says he did not raise his son to be so spineless. Iberia hides in a dark corner and curls into a ball. He cries alone and feels very ashamed. He thinks about Josuke's question from earlier. He asks himself why he looks up to Itsuki so much. The story then moves forward a few months. Aiden is at a hospital. He is very angry and grabs a doctor by his clothes. He asks why the doctor cannot do anything more to help. The doctor looks sad and apologizes. He explains that they did everything possible, but Aiden's wife was always very weak. Aiden asks if they're supposed to just sit and wait for her to die. The doctor tells him to stay by her side because she does not have much time left. Iberia sits next to his mother's bed. She looks very thin and pale. She calls out his name weakly. Iberia looks at her with tears in his eyes. She smiles at him and tells him not to cry. Iberia's mother lies weakly in a hospital bed. She tells young Iberia that his father calls him spineless, but she knows the truth. He is actually just too kind. She warns him that kindness without strength can become cruel. She explains that if he is not strong, he will fail to protect the people he loves and end up hurting himself too. She looks into his eyes and asks him to make a promise. He must become strong and use that strength bravely. She holds his small hands tightly. She says she believes that one day he will become a kind, courageous, and strong awakened. Her final wish is for him to take care of his father. Suddenly, the heart monitor lets out a long, continuous beep. His mother passed away. Iberia is devastated and cries out for his mom. He promises her that he will become the world's strongest, bravest, and kindest awakened. In the present day, Iberia thinks about his past and why he wants to be like Itsuki. He remembers being terrified by Itsuki's incredible strength when they first met. He originally thought they would only be allies for a short time. However, as they spent more time together, Iberia realized that Itsuki was not just strong. Whether Itsuki is facing 100 awaken at once or a terrifying disaster beast, he possesses insane courage. He never flinches in battle. Iberia recalls how Itsuki protected him and showed gentle kindness to his comrades behind his stern face. Iberia looks at Itsuki's back as they stand near the green barrier. He finally understands his own feelings. He wants to be like Itsuki because Itsuki is strong, brave, and has a kind heart. He realizes Itsuki is the person his mother hoped he would become. Iberia thinks about how Itsuki is the exact type of awakened he always dreamed of becoming. He tells himself that a coward with no talent could probably never reach Itsuki's level. However, he smiles through the blood on his face and decides that just standing by Itsuki's side and fighting together is enough for him. In the present, where a massive red dragon monster stands in the forest, Itsuki arrives on the scene and looks at the monster. He calls out the name Iberia. It is now 3:31 a.m. on the second day of the prophecy. Itsuki stares at the large dragon. He asks Iberia why he is wearing the dragon gear again. He reminds him that he was strictly forbidden from putting that armor on. The dragon does not answer and only looks at him with glowing red eyes. Itsuki realizes that Iberia's reactions are very strange. He notices that the creature's appearance looks different and more monstrous than before. The dragon snarls and looks like it has lost its human mind. Iberia is in deep pain. It makes strange groaning sounds and screams. Itsuki asks the dragon if it said something. He then asks where Aiden is. Instead of answering, the dragon lets out a deafening roar. It suddenly attacks Itsuki with great speed. Itsuki is forced to defend himself. He grabs the creature's claw to stop its strike. He looks directly at the dragon and yells at Iberia to snap out of it. The dragon towers over Itsuki and lets out a chilling laugh. It shows no signs of being human anymore. The creature prepares a powerful attack. A system message confirms that the skill Wind Blade has been activated. The dragon swings its sharp claws, sending waves of sharp wind toward Itsuki. Itsuki immediately activates his magic detection skill. Itsuki realizes that the dragon is using a wind elementalist skill. He speaks to the monster, saying he does not know if the dragon gear is causing this or if a monster is controlling him. He prepares to fight to save his friend. Itsuki activates his Thunderbreaker skill. He tells the dragon that he will make him calm down. He rushes forward with lightning speed and strikes the massive creature. Itsuki stops to observe the situation. He senses the magic energy coming from the beast. He confirms that this magic wave definitely belongs to Iberia. He is shocked that his friend would actually attack him. Itsuki looks deeply troubled. Suddenly, the dragon looks at Itsuki. A weak voice comes out of the monster's mouth. Iberia begs Itsuki to kill him. Itsuki is stunned and his eyes widen in horror at the request. The dragon immediately loses control again and lets out a powerful roar. Itsuki prepares to defend himself by activating his black ice wall. The dragon swipes at him with its heavy claws. Itsuki is sent flying backward from the force of the blow. Josuke suddenly jumps into the middle of the fight with his giant sword. He yells for Itsuki to look out. He slams his heavy blade down to intercept the monster. Itsuki asks Josuke about Iberia. Josuke says he knows that the situation has turned into the absolute worst-case scenario. The dragon begins to move with incredible speed. It becomes a red blur as it circles around the two men. Itsuki watches the creature closely. He realizes that at this speed, Iberia has gone completely berserk. Itsuki looks at the massive dragon and realizes that the dragon gear has completely swallowed Iberia. He says that he must remove the armor from his friend's body quickly. Josuke tells Itsuki it is useless. He explains that the gear has already fused with Iberia's body. Josuke recalls seeing an awakened being taken over by the gear before. He reveals the terrible truth that the dragon gear will not come off until the wearer is dead. Itsuki is shocked by this news. Jusuke says they have no choice but to kill Iberia. He offers to be the one to finish him and tells Itsuki to leave if he cannot bear to see it. Itsuki stops Jusuke and says that he will be the one to do it. Jusuke refuses, saying he cannot let Itsuki do something so cruel to a friend. Itsuki reminds Jusuke that Aiden was kidnapped by the ice-using disaster beast. He tells Jusuke to go rescue Aiden while he handles the dragon. Itsuki summons his Shikigami, the Death Hound, and tells Jusuke it will track the enemy for him. He says he still has things he needs to say to Iberia. Jusuke agrees and says he is counting on Itsuki. Jusuke warns that if Iberia escapes, he will only grow stronger and more feral, so he must be stopped here. Itsuki watches Jusuke leave and looks back at the monster. He knows he must end his friend's life right now. Suddenly, the dragon Iberia flies into the air and fires a massive beam of red energy down at Itsuki. He calls out to his Shikigami, Death, telling it to go. The dragon Iberia lands on the ground with a huge crash. The monster roars and activates the skill Windblade. Sharp wind currents fly toward Itsuki at high speed. Itsuki notices something strange. He realizes that his Over-Mimesis skill is not activating despite the dragon firing skills at him. A small cut appears on Itsuki's cheek. He looks at the monster and understands that Iberia's soul is still inside. He thinks to himself that Iberia really does not want to hurt him. Suddenly, the dragon roars again and activates a more powerful skill called Thousand Wind Blades. Countless blue blades of wind spin around Itsuki. He stands completely still and does not move to defend himself. The wind blades slice through Itsuki's skin from every direction. A massive amount of blood sprays out from his body. Itsuki is covered in deep wounds and stands in a pool of his own blood. The dragon looks at the injured Itsuki and begins to cry. Large tears fall from the monster's eyes. It lets out a long and painful roar of total despair. A subordinate reports to Lady Ringa. He confirms they successfully captured the master crafter, Aiden. However, he also reports that the Red Flame Demon King and the White Oni were killed by humans. Lady Ringa remains calm and dismisses the losses. She states that there are many fighters at that level and that capturing Aiden was their main goal. Then, the Demon General Enmaraku gives another update. He says that Lord Seru Shikuma is struggling in his fight. Lady Ringa assumes Seru Shikuma is being held back by the commander, Izumi Nento. The general corrects her, explaining that Seru Shikuma is currently fighting only one special class human. Lady Ringa is surprised that a human other than the strongest warrior, Teiwajin, can face a Demon King alone. She asks for the man's name. The general reveals his name is Hiten Akira, the man known by an insider to have the strongest physical body. In a massive battlefield filled with explosions, Keiichiro watches the destruction in total shock. He remarks that the battle has been raging since yesterday afternoon. He is amazed that he can witness such a high-level fight from a close distance. He also notices that his own wounds have almost finished healing during this time. The source of the power is then revealed. It is the Demon King Saru Shokuma, a massive and terrifying monster, standing amidst the ruins. Choha sweats as she notes that Hiten is taking blows strong enough to shatter the earth. She thinks to herself that if Hiten falls, no one will be able to stop the disaster beast. Feeling she has to do something, she reaches down to her side. Suddenly, Izumi Nento places his hand on her shoulder to stop her. He tells her not to worry, stating that Hiten is not weak enough to die from attacks like this. In the distance, Hiten stands as a monster in the ruined landscape. Nearby, Keiichiro watches in pure shock, stuttering in disbelief at the insane level of the fight. Nento tells Choha that all special-class saviors are monsters at the top of humanity and warns her not to underestimate them. The giant ape monster looks down with a surprise as its massive fist begins to tremble. Below the giant fist, Hiten is shown easily catching the massive attack with just one hand, while the ground around him is completely cratered from the impact. Nento casually mentions that it has been a while since he last saw Heten's second form. Choha is confused and asks what the second form is. Hiten begins to transform. Choha sweats and notes that his presence is completely different, making him feel like another person entirely. Nento explains that when Hiten enters this state, all of his stats increase explosively, but in exchange, he becomes extremely aggressive and cruel. Hiten looks up with a terrifying, enraged face. He punches the giant ape's fist upward, creating a massive red shockwave that easily pushes the giant arm away. Nento finishes by saying there is a specific nickname given to Hiten when he is in this form. Hiten leaps high into the air, his body surrounded by wild red lightning and dark energy. He dives down like a fiery meteor and strikes the giant ape monster directly in the chest. The massive impact creates a blinding explosion of fire and energy. The monster's face twists in agony as blood sprays from its mouth. The giant beast falls backward to the ground, dead, with a massive hole blown through its torso. Hiten lands heavily, cracking the earth beneath him from the sheer force. He stands up slowly, breathing hard. His muscular body is covered in blood and deep scars. He turns and begins to walk away from the defeated beast. Watching from a distance, Choha looks confused and asks where he is going. Izumi Nento calmly explains that Hiten is likely heading to destroy the stone pillar that maintains the barrier. Choha smiles with relief. She admits she thought he would just mindlessly rampage in that state, but she is glad he can keep his reason. Nento adds that if Hiten attacked without caring about friend or foe, his increased power would only bring disaster. He states that He-10 would not be a true special class protector of humanity if he lost control like a wild beast. As He-10 continues walking, the fierce red glow in his eyes suddenly fades back to normal. His dark aura completely disappears. He stops and looks down at his blood-stained body with a very confused expression. He wonders aloud why he is there, seemingly forgetting the intense battle he just fought. He-10 asks if the enemies are already dealt with. He notes that the other guy came out again and complains that he is still as meddlesome as ever. Meanwhile, the red barrier in the distance slowly fades away. Choha watches with relief. She asks Nento if everything is finally settled. Nento looks at her. He mentions that earlier she was trying to heal He-10 even at the cost of her own life. Choha says yes. Nento tells her that being so calm and composed is not like her. He says that normally she would suggest retreating instead of risking her life for a small chance of victory. Nento notes that she is becoming more and more like Tenma. Choha blushes and stammers, saying it is not like that. She tries to change the subject and wonders how Tenma is doing. She hopes that he is safe in the forest since high-level Waken like Yusuke are with him. Back in the forest, Iberia watches the fight in total despair. He screams and asks why Itsuki is not dodging the attacks. Itsuki is taking all of the dragon's windblade attacks head-on. Blood flies everywhere as the sharp wind cuts his body. Itsuki thinks to himself that physical pain numbs the mind. He states that this is why he will not avoid the attacks on purpose. He walks straight up to the dragon and grabs it tightly by the neck. The dragon snarls and tries to bite him. Itsuki looks into the monster's eyes. He calls out Iberia's name. A dark purple energy starts to gather in Itsuki's free hand. Holding the dragon by the neck, Itsuki activates a skill called Kaitsu Shinkyu. A dark purple orb forms in his hand. Declaring that this is the end, he thrusts the orb directly into the dragon's chest. The purple energy pierces straight through the monster's body. The dragon goes limp and falls forward onto Itsuki. The red armor breaks apart and falls to the ground, revealing Iberia's human body underneath. Iberia cries heavily, with blood covering his mouth and face. He apologizes to Itsuki for messing up again and explains that he just did not want to be a burden. Itsuki, who is also bleeding from the fight, tells Iberia that he's never once thought of him as a burden. Iberia smiles weakly through his tears and asks if that is really true. Itsuki confirms it, telling him that they are just good at different things. Iberia tightly holds Itsuki's arm. He explains that he faintly heard the enemy earlier. He reveals that the disaster beast is not going to kill his father, but plans to control him instead. Iberia begs Itsuki to save his father from the monster. Itsuki accepts the request and tells him to leave it to him. Itsuki glares into the dark forest. With tears forming in his eyes, he promises to crush the disaster beast that caused all this tragedy with his own hands. Iberia closes his eyes and his hand falls limply to his side. Covered in blood, Iberia gives a weak smile and tells Itsuki he is glad they got to talk at the end. Using their duo name one last time, he tells Itsuki that he is counting on him. The time turns to 3:33 a.m. on the second day of the prophecy. Iberia leans forward and hugs Itsuki. As they embrace, a massive fatal hole is revealed right through the middle of Iberia's back. With those final words, Iberia dies in Itsuki's arms. Far away in a dark realm, the demon smiles wickedly and declares that the kid has really done it now. But this is only the beginning. The monster promises to erase everything precious to Itsuki one by one in an even more twisted way. In the forest, Kei Chirajima is escorting Commander Izumi Nento and Shoha through the woods. Kei thinks to himself that he believed everything would be solved after defeating the giant ape beast. He did not expect to be assigned to escort Izumi this deep into the mountains. He notes that this was supposed to be Heaton's job, but Heaton was so badly injured from his battle that he cannot even stand. Suddenly, Choha's glowing blue butterfly Shikigami reacts. She alerts the group that her summon has detected a strange emotional wave. She points forward, stating the source is just ahead of them. Through the dark trees, they spot a silhouette of a person sitting on the ground and holding a body. Kei immediately draws his sword and takes a fighting stance. He yells out, asking who is there, and nervously wonders if the shadowy figure is a humanoid disaster beast. Kei Chirajima, Choha, and Izumi Nento approach a figure sitting in the dark forest. Choha recognizes the person's back and runs forward, calling out Tenma's name. She finds Itsuki sitting on the ground, tightly holding Iberia's lifeless body. Itsuki is covered in blood, and his face shows complete despair. He looks up and weakly says Choha's name. Choha is completely shocked by his severe injuries and desperately asks what on earth happened there. Suddenly, a voice from the dark says he will explain everything. Jusuke walks out of the shadows accompanied by the giant black wolf. He introduces himself as first-class savior Jusuke Bokuto. Izumi Nento asks why Aiden's guard is here instead of protecting the crafter. Jusuke remembers the horrific events, picturing Aiden frozen in ice and Iberia transformed into a dragon. Jusuke looks down with a dark, grim expression and tells Izumi that they lost the battle. The time changes to 3:34 a.m. on the second day of the prophecy. A system message reveals that the foretold battle ended in the worst possible outcome. Half of North Continent District 7 was destroyed. The demon successfully kidnapped the legendary crafter Aiden Hiss, and his son Iberia died. Standing before the group near a ruined building, Jusuke begins to explain exactly what happened after his master was taken. Jusuke sits at a table and his hands clasped together. He explains to Izumi, Nento, and Choha that he used the wolf Shikigami, death, to track the magic traces left by the disaster beast. However, Jusuke looks annoyed as he reports that they only found clones. He states that the disaster beast is extremely cunning. It expected to be tracked and deliberately left many clones behind so they could not locate it. Jusuke then asks how Tenma is doing. Choha looks very sad as she answers. She explains that most of Tenma's wounds are just scratches, so the bleeding is already stopped. However, she reveals that he stubbornly refuses her medical treatment. She says she can feel the flame of anger inside him burning even stronger than before. Choha is terrified that at this rate, his heart will be completely swallowed by hatred. In a dark room, Itsuki sits alone on the edge of a bed, looking down in complete despair. He stares at a framed family photo on a desk that shows a smiling Aiden, Iberia, and Iberia's mother. Itsuki begins to remember all his past moments with Iberia. He remembers Iberia first introducing himself, carrying an injured Iberia on his back, and Iberia happily hugging him while promising to never leave his side. He also recalls Iberia smiling and offering to give his Shikigami a new name. In the present, Itsuki's face is covered in dried blood and scratches, showing an expression of pure sorrow. He finally stands up in the dark room, looks at the giant wolf waiting beside him, and says, "Let's go, Death." Itsuki looks at his level 20 Death Hound and fiercely declares that they will catch the disaster beast and crush it. As he walks toward the exit with his giant wolf, the door suddenly opens. Izumi Nento stands in the doorway with Josuke and Kei. Surprised, Itsuki asks his teacher what suddenly happened and why everyone is here. Kei observes Itsuki closely. He thinks to himself that this injured boy is Izumi's second disciple. Kei recalls hearing that Itsuki defeated a disaster beast over level 30 inside a green barrier all alone, and even killed his own friend. Kei admits Itsuki is strong but considers him a very cold-hearted person. Itsuki starts to walk past the group. Nento stops him and asks where he is going. Itsuki clearly states that he is going to find the ice attribute disaster beast and save Aiden. Nento immediately says no and blocks Itsuki's path with his arm. Itsuki looks shocked and angrily demands to know why. Nento explains that Itsuki is not an official savior yet. He reveals that the Savior Alliance has already classified this incident as a special class danger. Nento tells Itsuki that anyone joining the rescue mission must be at least a second-class savior. He firmly states that Itsuki does not have that qualification yet. Itsuki clenching his fist in anger and asks if not being a savior means he has no right to help. He declares that he promised Iberia he would definitely save Aiden, stating he will go even if his teacher opposes him. Kei watches in shock, wondering how Itsuki dares to speak to Izumi like that. Choha looks worried and tells her father that he does not need to be so blunt. She asks if he understands Itsuki's fragile mental state right now. Izumi Nento then asks Itsuki if it would be okay if someone died because of him. Hearing this, Itsuki's eyes widen in pure shock and horror. Nento looks out the window and tells Itsuki that he understands his feelings. He admits that this situation happened because of his own mistake. He explains that he neglected Aiden's protection because he believed the disaster beasts were only targeting him. Itsuki looks down and clenches his fist tightly. Nento explains that the beasts went through a lot of trouble to capture Aiden, so they will not kill him easily. He warns Itsuki that challenging that disaster beast with his current strength would only result in dying for nothing. Nento then tells Itsuki that he has limitless potential and that surpassing the special class is not just a dream. He promises that if Itsuki reaches that level, he will tell the Alliance to let Itsuki handle Aiden's rescue. Itsuki looks up with renewed determination and asks what he can do right now to surpass the special class. Nento instructs him to join the Apex camp. Itsuki looks confused by the name. Nento explains that Awakened who rank in the top 10 in the Savior Alliance National Tournament preliminaries are invited to the Apex camp in Nakasu, which is hosted by the Savior Alliance. Nento adds that strong humans like Teiwajin and Hiten Akira all went through that harsh training. He concludes by saying that those who overcome this training become the key force. Izumi Nento continues his conversation with Itsuki. He explains that if Itsuki can safely overcome the trials of Apex Camp, he will not only rank high in the main tournament but also gain a direct shortcut to becoming a special class savior. Itsuki clenches his fist and confidently declares that he will join the Apex Camp. Nento agrees but points out that they must heal his badly injured body first. Later, Choha uses her butterfly Shikigami to heal Itsuki's wounds as he kneels on the floor. Itsuki looks over his shoulder and asks Choha if she knows anything about Apex Camp. Choha confirms that she does. She asks if Itsuki is actually planning to join the camp. Itsuki explains that his teacher recommended it is the perfect place to build his strength, and he asks if there is a problem with that plan. Choha explains that only the absolute best geniuses are allowed to join Apex Camp. Because of this high standard, people who were praised as geniuses their entire lives enter the camp only to realize they are completely ordinary compared to the others. Choha reveals that she has seen many of these people have their minds completely broken by this harsh realization. She warns Itsuki that Apex Camp is known as both a training ground and a graveyard for geniuses. She finishes by stating that the training is incredibly brutal and the stage difficulty is extremely high. Choha warns Itsuki that because of the extreme danger, fatal accidents happen every year at the Apex camp. Hearing this, our boy Itsuki gets a small smirk on his face and says that the brutal training is actually perfect for him. As Choha continues using her green healing magic, Itsuki explains his reasoning. He says that against half-hearted disaster beasts or weak awakenings, his over-mimicry skill won't even activate. He confesses he was worried he wouldn't find a worthy opponent, but that worry was unnecessary. Our dude looks incredibly determined as he explains that he can only grow stronger by fighting powerful disaster beasts at the edge of life and death. He looks at Choha and states that fighting strong disaster beasts is the duty of the awakened. Choha is completely stunned by his resolve. Her eyes go wide with awe and she blushes heavily, mesmerized by his words. Our fellow notices and points out that her face is very red. He asks if she exhausted herself from healing him. Choha instantly panics, flailing her hands in embarrassment and stutters a denial. She tells him that using a skill for a long time simply makes your body heat up, asking if he didn't even know that. But inside, her heart starts beating hella fast, and she can hear it clearly for the first time. Blushing furiously, she shakes her head to clear her thoughts. She regains her composure and tells Itsuki that his wounds are almost completely healed. Itsuki thanks Choha, grabs his dark coat, and starts walking toward the door. Choha asks him where he is going. Our boy pauses at the door, looks back with a solemn expression, and calmly says he is going to say goodbye. Itsuki and Josuke stand solemnly before a stone gravestone in the quiet forest. The grave is marked with Iberia's name, and a bouquet of yellow roses lies next to a small dagger in front of it. Looking down with a sad expression, Josuke apologizes to Itsuki for forcing him to do something so cruel. Our boy Itsuki looks completely calm, and replies that it is fine because he chose to do it himself. Josuke asks if he is leaving already. Itsuki confirms that he is. He explains that he is going to join the Apex camp to improve his skills so that one day he can kill that disaster beast with his own hands. Itsuki then asks Josuke what he plans to do next. Josuke grips the handle of his massive sword tightly. He explains that if he had not met his master Aiden, he would have been killed by a monster long ago and never would have become awakened. He states that his armor, his weapons, and even his very life were given to him by his master. Because of this, Josuke declares that no matter what, he will find and rescue his master. Hearing this, our fellow Itsuki raises his fist and holds it out toward Josuke. He promises that he will definitely become a savior so they can go rescue Aiden together. Itsuki tells Josuke that until then, he must make sure not to die. Josuke is deeply moved. He smiles warmly and thinks to himself that he looks completely pathetic in front of this determined kid. He bumps his fist against Itsuki's and promises that he will be waiting. Yellow leaves blow past Iberia's grave as the two allies seal their promise. Choha and Nento watch Itsuki and Josuke fist bump from a distance. Choha remarks that Itsuki is amazing because he was completely broken physically and mentally just a few hours ago, yet he recovered so quickly. Nento looks through his mask and thinks to himself that Itsuki has only pushed his negative emotions deep down so he can unleash them all on the monsters one day. Nento turns to walk away. He explains that there are many suspicious details regarding this monster attack. He announces that he is going to gather the commanders from each continent to hold an emergency meeting. Nento tells Choha that he is counting on her to look after Itsuki while he is away. Choha blushes and gives a bright, happy smile, telling her father to leave it to her. As they walk, he points out that she looks unusually happy and asks what is wrong. Itsuki then asks Choha where his teacher Nento is going. Choha coughs nervously and says that his destination is classified, so she cannot tell him. She proudly puts her hand to her chest and declares that her father asked her to take care of Itsuki. She tells him that she is his official guardian from now on. Itsuki looks slightly annoyed and thinks to himself that he is not a kid who needs a guardian. He then asks what they are supposed to do next. Choha points forward dramatically with a confident smile. She loudly announces that they are heading to Nakasu immediately to join the Apex camp. Itsuki smiles and answers with a simple, "Roger." Choha stands tall and proudly extends her hand to lead the way. Suddenly, a massive, violent explosion shakes the earth in the distance, and a giant green barrier dome begins to rapidly expand over the land. The story flashes back to Kinoshita Reiji's memory of being brutally beaten. In his nightmare, Itsuki blitzes him in a flash of lightning, grabs his face, and slams him into the ground. Reiji suddenly wakes up screaming in a hospital bed. He is completely covered in white bandages from head to toe. His mother rushes to his side, desperately hugging him and telling him not to be scared because she is there. She looks at him with a worried face and asks if he had another nightmare about the person who injured him. Gritting his teeth in pure anger and crying through his bandages, Reiji swears that he will return the pain he suffered 100 times over. He furiously declares that he will make his enemy experience a living hell. His mother comforts him, telling him not to worry because his older brother has finally returned to avenge him. Standing near the window with his back turned is Reiji's massive, muscular older brother. Looking out at the city, the brother calmly remarks that the attack must have been very painful for Reiji. Crying like a child, Reiji begs his big brother to punish the guy who did this to him. The older brother turns slightly, showing a sinister smirk on his face. He asks if the name of the person who beat Reiji is Itsuki Tenma. Reiji's mother quickly chimes in, calling Itsuki an orphan with no family. She explains that even though Itsuki somehow got first place in the tournament preliminaries, his level is still 0. She tells her eldest son that Itsuki is not even close to his level. Hearing this, the older brother's body begins to glow with a powerful red and orange aura. He notes that if Itsuki got first place in the preliminaries, he will definitely participate in the Apex camp. He lets out a terrifying, wide grin, showing all of his teeth, and promises that he will crush Itsuki right there. Choha and Itsuki arrive at their destination. Choha looks at the giant building and says they have arrived. Itsuki looks up at the massive dome. He says that the place is impressive and completely different from what he had imagined. He looks toward the entrance where many people are walking up the stairs. He notes that just like Choha told him, everyone there looks very proud of themselves. The entrance area is filled with strong-looking warriors, including a giant in gold armor with a massive beast. Choha turns to Itsuki and tells him she cannot go inside, so he is on his own from now on. Itsuki replies that he understands. Choha reaches out and hands him his record bracelet. She explains that she was holding onto it and tells him he will need it for the camp. Itsuki takes the bracelet and thanks her. As he looks down at the device in his hand, Choha gives him a warning. She tells him to try not to do anything that draws too much attention because he does not want to get on other people's radar. Itsuki begins walking toward the bright entrance of the dome. He looks back slightly and says he knows. Choha watches him walk away with a worried look on her face. She sweats and thinks to herself that because of Itsuki's personality, she cannot help but feel anxious about him. Itsuki enters the high-tech registration lobby. He walks up to a desk where a tired-looking receptionist is sitting. Itsuki politely tells him that he wants to register as a participant. Without looking up, the receptionist holds out his hand and tells Itsuki to show his bracelet. Itsuki hands the device over. The receptionist scans the bracelet on a glowing machine. Suddenly, a blue magical aura erupts from the machine and wraps around the receptionist. Itsuki watches this and uses his magic detection. He is shocked to see that even the simple reception staff members are at level 40 or higher. He realizes that the Apex camp is truly on a completely different level. Meanwhile, the registration screen displays Itsuki's details, showing his name is Tenma Itsuki, his level is 0, his job is order breaker, and his gift is special grade. The receptionist looks down at Itsuki's status and thinks to himself. He is surprised a level 0 participant could get in and believes Itsuki must have used personal connections to pass the preliminaries. He looks up at Itsuki and says that connections mean nothing in this camp. He warns Itsuki that if he does not have real skills to back it up, he will eventually fail. The receptionist then tells Itsuki that once he chooses a room, he must pay the accommodation fee. Itsuki looks completely shocked. He asks if participants really have to pay to stay at the camp. The receptionist looks annoyed and says that the camp is obviously not a charity. Itsuki looks down in despair, sweating. He wonders why Choha did not tell him about the fees, as he has no money of his own. The receptionist looks at Itsuki and says that since he passed the preliminaries, he should have points. Itsuki looks confused and asks about these points. The receptionist explains that a participant's wealth is decided by the points they earned in the preliminaries. He explains that if Itsuki earned points in the preliminaries, that exact amount was transferred to his account when he entered. He says that points can also be earned by completing missions. He adds that points are the main currency used in the camp to buy food, purchase daily necessities, and pay for housing. Itsuki holds his chin thoughtfully. He realizes that points are extremely important, but since he earned many points in the preliminaries, he thinks he has enough. The receptionist knocks on his desk impatiently. He tells Itsuki to hurry up and choose a room because other people are waiting. Itsuki looks at him calmly and asks how much the most luxurious room costs. The receptionist is shocked by the question. He displays a screen showing 3 different housing options. The normal room is 35 square meters and costs 100 points a month. The luxury room is 75 square meters and costs 500 points a month. The villa is 200 square meters and costs 2,000 points a month. Itsuki thinks to himself that a normal room would be fine for him alone. However, he pictures his giant wolf, Death, looking very cramped inside a small space. He realizes they will not fit in a small room. Itsuki looks at the receptionist and says he will take the villa. The receptionist is completely shocked and asks what he just said. He warns Itsuki that even if he has many points now, he should not waste them. He explains that points are used up very quickly in daily life at the camp. Itsuki turns and walks away calmly. He tells the receptionist that he has already decided and asks him to process the transaction quickly. The receptionist types on his keyboard. He thinks to himself that Itsuki is a clueless kid who will regret his decision. He hands the record bracelet back to Itsuki and explains an important rule of the camp. He tells Itsuki that once a participant enters the camp, everyone's stats become hidden, meaning Itsuki will no longer be able to check other people's names, gifts, or levels. Itsuki accepts the bracelet and says he understands. As Itsuki walks away toward the camp, the receptionist watches his back, wondering how many points this kid could have possibly earned in the preliminaries to confidently choose the villa. The receptionist clicks his mouse. Suddenly, his eyes widen in absolute shock and he begins to sweat. He asks himself if what he is seeing is a bug in the system. The screen clearly displays Itsuki's total points as 106,600. The receptionist falls back in his chair, completely dumbfounded. He cannot believe Itsuki has over 100,000 points. Sweating profusely, he thinks to himself that when he entered the camp, he only had 1,600 points. He concludes that the young people these days are truly terrifying. Meanwhile, Itsuki walks through the crowded courtyard of the camp, passing other strong participants. Suddenly, he stops walking. He puts his hand to his forehead, looking stressed. He realizes that he forgot to ask the receptionist where his villa is actually located. Left with no other choice, he decides to walk back toward the registration desk. As he heads back, two creepy-looking participants with large, sinister grins block his path. Itsuki looks at them calmly and asks if they need something. One of the men explains that they are awakened from the South Continent who arrived yesterday. He notes that Itsuki looks completely lost. The other man grins and clenches his hands, offering to show him around. He asks Itsuki where he wants to go. Itsuki tells them he is trying to find the villa and asks if they know where it is. A giant armored man standing behind the two men begins to sweat. He points to the side and says he thinks the villa is over in that direction. The first creepy man quickly turns around, looking very nervous, and points in the same direction, confirming that it is right over there. The two creepy men hear the word villa and freeze in complete shock. Their jaws drop, and they begin to sweat. Itsuki notices their strange reaction and asks them if something is wrong. The men quickly panic. One of them waves his arms nervously and tells Itsuki to hold on for a second because he is trying to remember the exact location of the villa. The two men immediately huddle close together to whisper and scheme while trembling with fear. Itsuki watches their suspicious behavior. He asks them why they have to sneak around just to remember a location, and he asks if they are up to something bad. While the men are whispering, a young woman walks by. She has a black cat sitting on her shoulder. A caption box introduces her as Akagami Shion, who finished in 5th place in the North Continent preliminaries. Shion looks at the two men huddling together. She thinks to herself that those scammers are trying to steal points from a newcomer again by pretending to give directions. Her black cat lets out a soft meow. Shion wonders what kind of fool is about to become their next victim. Shion looks over at the newcomer's face, and her cat-like eyes instantly widen in complete shock. She recognizes him and realizes that he is the monster who scored over 100,000 points in the preliminaries. She watches Itsuki stand calmly in front of the scammers. Shion gives a sly, cunning smile and bites her black glove. She tells herself that things are starting to get very interesting. The two men whisper secretly to each other. The armored man asks if Itsuki is really staying in a villa. He wonders if Itsuki got 1st place in the preliminaries from some continent. The blonde man shakes his head. He says that even a 1st place winner would never spend 2,000 points just on a room. He assumes Itsuki is just a rich, spoiled brat who does not understand how valuable points are. The armored man asks what he means by that. The blonde man explains that these rich boys raised in safe environments are always weaklings. He calls Itsuki the perfect prey and declares that they will steal every single point he has. Itsuki stands calmly with his hands in his pockets. He looks impatient and tells them that if they cannot remember the way, he will just find it himself. Hearing this, the two scammers quickly put on fake, friendly smiles. The blonde man laughs loudly and says he suddenly remembers the location, offering to guide Itsuki there. As they walk together across the busy camp, two bystanders watch them. One of the bystanders recognizes the scammers as the outcasts from the South Continent, Fumiya Futaki and Ichitora Seno. The other bystander feels sorry for Itsuki. He notes that Itsuki looks weak and says the poor kid has fallen right into their trap and will lose all his points. Itsuki continues walking and passes Gaku. Gaku looks back and recognizes Itsuki as the kid who asked strange questions before the trials. He notices that Itsuki got caught by those specific scammers. However, Gaku turns away and says it is not his problem. He states that he only has one goal in mind: to surpass Itsuki Tenma, the person who took 1st place in the North Continent preliminaries. Finally, the two scammers lead Itsuki to a massive, modern building surrounded by nature. They announce that this is the villa area. Itsuki looks up at the giant structure and simply notes that it is very big. The blonde man smiles evilly and cracks his knuckles. He demands that Itsuki pay a guide fee. Itsuki looks back over his shoulder calmly. He agrees to give them a tip for guiding him this far. The two men looked completely shocked because Itsuki agreed so easily. Itsuki raises his hand to show his bracelet and asks how much they want. The armored man starts to ask for at least 500 points. The blonde man quickly covers his partner's mouth and calls him an idiot. He demands 1,000 points instead. Itsuki notes that 1,000 points is a bit much, but he agrees to pay it. The scammers look surprised again and ask if that is really okay. Itsuki simply asks them how to transfer the points to someone else. The blonde man stares at Itsuki's back with a sinister smile. He thinks to himself that Itsuki is not only weak but also dumb for paying 1,000 points just for directions. The blonde man decides to take advantage of the situation. He tells Itsuki not to take it personally, but claims the walk took longer than expected, so Itsuki must pay extra. The armored man steps forward with his hands raised and demands 5,000 points in total. Both men surround Itsuki. They demand that if 5,000 points is not enough, Itsuki must hand over everything he has. Itsuki looks over his shoulder and calmly states that they are extortionists. The blonde man and the armored man flinch and sweat in surprise. The blonde man notes that Itsuki's demeanor has suddenly changed. The blonde man yells aggressively, telling Itsuki to blame his own carelessness. The armored man demands the points and threatens that Itsuki will regret refusing. Itsuki's dark red aura grows even larger. He declares that he is seriously angry right now. Taking a heavy step forward, he warns them not to complain about what happens next. The blonde man boasts that he took 6th place in the South Continent preliminaries and refuses to lose to trash. He charges forward and uses a B-rank skill called Lightning Punch. He thrusts his lightning-covered fist directly into Itsuki's chest, threatening to turn him to ash. Itsuki takes the direct hit completely. System notifications appear, confirming that Itsuki absorbed the B-rank lightning attack using his Thunder Roar wave skill. This absorption grants him a 10% increase in agility, bringing his total agility to 475. The blonde man's eyes widen in absolute shock as he realizes his strongest attack did not even move his opponent. Without a moment's hesitation, Itsuki delivers a brutal backhand slap directly to the blonde man's face, sending him flying backward through the air. The armored man screams in absolute terror, calling Itsuki a demon. Itsuki thrusts his fist straight down toward the man. A system notification pops up confirming that Itsuki's next attack has a 100% probability of being a critical hit. Suddenly, the glowing fist stops just inches away from the armored man's face. The man trembles and sweats heavily, staring in shock as he stammers that Itsuki stopped the attack. Itsuki stands over the defeated man and looks at his own fist. He thinks to himself that if a critical punch landed directly on the man, it would definitely blow his head completely off. He notes that the fatal strike was almost irreversible. With a cold expression, Itsuki simply orders the two men to get lost. The blonde man and the armored man immediately turn and run away in pure panic. They sprint down the street together, screaming to run and calling Itsuki a monster. Up on a nearby balcony, Akagami Shion watches the end of the fight. She stretches her arms behind her head and smiles. She thinks to herself that those two men ranked 5th and 6th in the South Continent preliminaries, so she expected Itsuki to struggle a bit. Seeing his overwhelming victory, she remarks that he really is a terrifying man. Suddenly, a loudspeaker on a street pole turns on. It announces that all participants must gather at the Apex Plaza immediately because the Apex Camp entrance test will begin shortly. Hearing this, Shion smiles confidently. She tells her black cat, Mi-chan, that it is time to get to work, and she leaps down from the high balcony. Itsuki also listens to the announcement as he walks down the street. He remembers Choha's warning that 50% of the participants get eliminated at this exact stage. Itsuki decides that he will have to give the test everything he has. Itsuki walks alone toward a large crowd of armed fighters. He observes the group and thinks to himself that these must be the elite warriors from each continent. He notes that they all look very impressive. Suddenly, Itsuki reacts instantly and leans back. He quickly throws a fast, powerful punch to counterattack. He stops his fist just inches away from the attacker's face. He is shocked to see his friend Seiya. Rikuru walks up to them with a smile and his hands behind his head. Rikuru teases Itsuki, saying that throwing a punch at Seiya is a very bold greeting. Itsuki lowers his hand and apologizes, explaining that he thought she was an enemy. Seiya looks concerned and tells Itsuki that he is still as paranoid as ever. Rikuru then looks around and asks Itsuki where Iberia is, pointing out that the two of them were always together like glue. Hearing Iberia's name, Itsuki's face instantly fills with deep sadness. He remembers the image of Iberia smiling at him while dying and covered in blood. Seiya asks if Iberia got injured during the last enemy attack. Itsuki answers that Iberia stayed home. Rikuru puts his arm around Itsuki's shoulder to comfort him. He tells Itsuki not to look so sad, assuming it is just a minor injury that will heal with rest. Rikuru then decides to tease Seiya. He tells Itsuki that ever since the attack started, Seiya has been spacing out during her training because she was so worried about him. Seiya gets very embarrassed and punches Rikuru hard in the face. She thinks to herself that the recent attack made her realize just how weak she truly is. Itsuki declares that he is going to get stronger at the camp with everything he has. Rikuru sweats and looks shocked, asking Itsuki how he could possibly consider himself weak. Suddenly, a man with a megaphone yells for everyone to be quiet and announces that the entrance test is about to start. The announcer tells the massive crowd of participants that before their life at Apex Camp begins, they must know one important rule. He explains that all personal information except their names is now kept strictly private. He states that no matter what glory they achieved in the past, everyone here starts over from zero. Rikuru looks surprised and questions if everything is really hidden. He opens his status screen and tells Itsuki to check it for himself. The glowing blue screen shows Rikuru's name, but his level, gift, skills, and overall status are all listed as private. Itsuki looks at the screen and confirms that the information is completely blocked. A giant blue portal opens in front of the crowd. The announcer declares the start of the entrance test and instructs the participants to enter the venue one by one in order. The participants begin walking through the portal. Inside, Seiya looks around in awe. She notes that the interior is huge and even bigger than the preliminary venue. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him from behind. The voice asks if Itsuki is the guy who insulted them from the South Continent. Itsuki stops and looks back in confusion. He turns around to see a man wearing a cape standing confidently with his arms crossed. Standing right behind this man are the two scammers Itsuki defeated in the streets earlier. They both look beaten up, covered in bandages, and are glaring angrily at Itsuki. A system text reveals that the man is Kagen Imamichi, the person who took first place in the South Continent preliminaries. The two scammers point at Itsuki. They complain to Kagen Imamichi that Itsuki attacked them when they asked for a guide fee. They also lie, claiming Itsuki mocked the South Continent awakened as a worthless mob. Kagen glares at Itsuki and asks him to explain himself. Rikuru and Seiya quickly step up behind Itsuki to help. Rikuru points his finger at Kagen and defends his friend. He states that Itsuki is not a bad person and calls the situation a misunderstanding. Rikuru guesses that the two scammers tried to extort points and got beaten up instead. He tells Kagen that he should be thanking them for educating his underlings. Hearing this, Kagen dashes forward with incredible speed. Kagen warns Rikuru not to touch him with filthy hands, threatening to rip his arm off. Rikuru grinds his teeth in shock as the attack approaches. Suddenly, Itsuki steps between them. He places his hand on Rikuru's shoulder to safely pull him back. Itsuki stands face to face with Kagen. Itsuki says he has no intention of explaining every little detail. Then, Itsuki glares directly at Kagen and issues a deadly threat. He warns Kagen not to lay a single finger on his friend, or he will kill him. Kagen is instantly pushed backward by the intense pressure of Itsuki's aura. He slides across the floor in surprise. Saya quickly steps into the middle of the group and asks everyone to stop because the test is about to begin. The blonde scammer also warns Kagen that starting a fight here will result in a penalty. Kagen calms down and lowers his head. He tells Itsuki that there is a training ground in the camp where trainees can fight without punishment. He challenges Itsuki to settle things there after the test. Itsuki looks back calmly and accepts the challenge. The participants look inside and notice that the entrance is pitch black. They nervously wonder how they're supposed to take a test in such a dark environment. Suddenly, bright white lights click on inside the dark corridor, illuminating the path ahead. The announcer appears and says he is glad everyone is fired up, hoping they keep that energy until the test ends. He surprises everyone by stating that there are no rules. He explains that the participants will enter 4 different rooms behind him to take 4 separate tests for defense, strength, agility, and magic. They can decide the order themselves. He clarifies that there are no restrictions on equipment, items, or skills. The only goal is to raise their stats as much as possible and pass. He details the grading system. Scores above 80 earn bonus points. Scores between 60 and 80 require additional training, and scores below 60 result in failure and expulsion. The participants are excited about having no restrictions. Rikuru wishes he had gotten some items from their teacher, feeling disadvantaged being empty-handed. Sayer reassures him that their training will be enough. Rikuru asks Itsuki which stat test they should start with. Itsuki calmly says any test is fine since they have to take them all anyway, suggesting they start with the nearest one. Rikuru points out that the nearest room is the defense test, which is perfect for him since he is a metal element user. They enter the large defense room and see a strong-looking man waiting for them. The system reveals he is a level 40 earth element user. The examiner welcomes them to the defense test. He makes several rocks float around him with his magic. He explains that he will attack them with 5 kinds of rocks ranging from difficulty levels 1 to 5, and their only job is to block them.